Bucks, and they will go on to face the number 2 seed Celtics. The Hawks will go on to face the winner of tonight's Bulls Heat game, and the winner of that game will go on to face the number 1 seeded Cavs. In the West, Jim's Warriors took down the Grizzlies, and they will go on to take on the Rockets in the first round. Memphis will go on to play the winner of tonight's Kings Mavericks game, and the winner of that game will go on to face number 1 seed OKC. The Padres and Cubs are currently underway right now downtown at Petco Park. Currently in the top of the fourth, it is the Padres up at 2-1. And tonight, remember at 6:00, it's San Diego Sports SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live tonight at 6:00 on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Guess what? Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. You heard right, 99%. If you don't think so, maybe it's time to face facts. You're stuck in the past. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report, learn more at discover.com/credit card.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour one of John and Jim, and we will have full reaction to Padres Cubs when it goes final this afternoon down at Petco Park. You may notice today that you're not going to hear a lot of Jim, and there's a reason for that, right, Brent? It's because he's not here. He had a scheduled off day, personal matter, day to day. We all are, but everything's fine. He'll be back tomorrow. He wasn't on the wrap-up show if you were watching last night on YouTube, but this was all part of the plan. Some people thought he took last night off on YouTube, Brent, because the Padres lost at home for the first time this year. So it's like, when things are good, Jim's there. When things aren't, he takes the night off. But no, this is always part of the plan. He'll be back tomorrow. We're hanging out for the next 4 hours. We've got a really good show lined up.
I thought maybe he was sweating the Warriors game.
Honestly, probably was. So actually, I'm glad you mentioned it because Sammy Long, who's part of the show with Ben Fletcher, Fletch Zone, right? Heard weekdays here from 12 to 2. He'll pop in studio at 2:30. We'll talk about last night in the play-in tournament, and we'll look ahead to tonight and this weekend as well in the NBA. Latrell Davis, we mentioned this yesterday, the impact for San Diego State basketball. The Aztecs with a big addition, really good shooter, played at San Jose State, shot over 38% from beyond the arc with San Jose State, had some huge games against the Aztecs last year. Well, he's now committed to San Diego State. He will join us. He's a product of Leeds, England. He's going to join us on the show at 5 p.m. Kevin Acey, to recap this entire homestand and series, will join us at 5:30. We'll talk some college athletics as well with Matt Brown from Extra Points at 3:15. So we'll see what happens today down at Petco as the Padres are going for a series win. This is the rubber match against the Cubs, who have played the Padres really well. And as Brent just told you in the update, the Padres have a slim early lead right now in the fourth inning, 2-1 behind Nick Pivetta. But to touch on last night, and then of course we'll touch on the series as a whole when it ends, that this is what I would say about last night for the Padres, who lost for the first time all season at home. That's baseball. Because everything had gone perfectly for the Padres by and large at home. Every single time they had a lead, they held on to one with their bullpen. They hadn't had one blown lead. There wasn't one time all year a reliever came into a game for the Padres with a lead and allowed the lead to be relinquished, even for a tie score, all season long until last night. And the Padres had plenty of opportunities last night. I mean, just plenty of them against Shota Imanaga. And the Cubs had opportunities, I thought, to score more runs against the Padres. But Padres got a gift of a home run from Manny Machado. Why was it a gift of a home run? There were two dropped fly balls, pop outs in foul territory. So that gave Machado a third opportunity. They took a 1-0 lead, and you're thinking, well, here we go again. Padres are going to get to 12-0, be just the fourth team since 1900 to start a year 12-0 at home. But give the Cubs credit. They scratched across a run. They scored in the 10th inning, and then the Padres had a runner at third with one out in the bottom of the 10th inning. Couldn't get him in. and they lose 2-1. And, I saw some of the reaction last night when I was doing the show on YouTube, and I'm sure we'll have some of it here today. It's like, oh my gosh, what's Connor Joe doing on this team? How could you not come through in that spot? I'm like, you weren't going to win every game. They weren't going 81-0. They're not going anywhere close to 81-0 at home. It was inevitable. The Cubs are good. They're 12-8 this year. And again, did the Padres have opportunities? Yeah, but it's baseball. You're going to have games like that. And last night was probably the first example all year where the Padres had a game like that.
That would be valid if like Connor Joe was an everyday player, but the only reason Connor Joe is even up right now is because of all the injuries. So I think some people are putting too much emphasis on guys that are, essentially seat fillers just until, the injured Padres come back. Because, he's in 2 months, Connor Joe's not going to be on it. I hope he's not on this team, because that means that somebody's injury was worse than we thought.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point, and that point is that you can overcome injuries, but you can't do it all the time for a long period of time. So the Padres right now aren't dealing with an injury. They're dealing with injuries, and multiple to outfielders, to your point. I mean, it's not just Jackson Merrill. By the way, you're without one of the best outfielders in the game, one of the top center fielders in the game. Oh, you're without his backup in Brandon Lockridge as well. You're dealing with injuries all across the diamond. Jake Cronenworth is now out with that non-displaced rib fracture. And we know about some of these pitching injuries, whether it's Yu Darvish, and there's more under the radar injuries they're dealing with their staff, like Brian Hoeing, who was a big piece of their bullpen last year. So again, I think all things considered, like, take the step back. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. They're 14-4 with a chance to win another series and get to Houston 15-4 if they win this game. They may or may not. They've got a 2-1 lead in the fourth inning at Petco Park. They just took advantage of, I think, base hits from both Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. We were getting ready as that played out. But Padres have a 2-1 lead. If they win this series, they're 12-1 at home. They're 15-4 overall. They've got the best record in baseball. You can't ask for more out of this team, even with what happened last night, because if you've watched baseball long enough, and that means like for a year, you know that there are going to be games, and that's plural, like last night. That's not the only time they're going to lose a game where they have runners at second and third, one out, and don't capitalize multiple times. That's not the only time they're going to have the bases loaded for Manny Machado in the third inning. He's going to strike out, or second and third in the fourth inning for Jason Hayward, and he's going to strike out, or an opportunity with a runner on third and one out in the 10th inning to tie the score, and they don't come through like that. That's going to play out. You just hope to be on the right side more often than not. And by the way, they have. They've only lost one game, one-run game this year. That was last night. I think they're either 5-1 or 6-1 in one-run games. They've been near perfect at home. And we should only be so fortunate as to see this team continue to play at this clip for a longer period of time, because 14-4, even with the loss last night, that's hard to sustain for a month, let alone a half a season or a full season. So again, I think all things considered, you take the step back, you say Chicago's probably a good team that's capable of making the postseason this year. We'll see. It's very early, obviously, for all teams. But there's nothing to complain about. I think you want to get this team healthier. There's no real reason for concern, obviously, even with losing yesterday 2-1. And you see if you can bounce back and win this game. And then after today, you look at what's to come for the Padres. They'll be on the road. The one thing that I think has benefited them to start the year is you've played 2/3 of your games at home, because this is now their 13th home game, and they've only played 6 games on the road, and they've been awesome at home, as we know, about to potentially get to 12-1 if they win here today against the Cubs. Now, they've only played 6 times on the road, and they were in frigid Chicago. They lost 2 of 3. They were in bizarre Sacramento. Why is it bizarre? Because what are they doing in Sacramento? No Major League Baseball team's ever been there until now. And they did win 2 out of 3. So we made this point yesterday, Brent. It's like, if you're really good at home, it almost doesn't matter what you do on the road. Now, you can't be really bad on the road, but if you're treading water on the road, and we'll see if they're able to do that, if they're good at home, Brent, they're going to find a way to be in contention, hopefully, this year.
Yeah, because you're always expected to win more games at home. So the more games you win at home, it's going to put less pressure on you to not necessarily perform, because you always want to perform on the road, but just there's not going to be as much pressure to, go win 2 out of every 3 on the road. You can have a road trip where you might go 4-4 or something like that, and it's not going to be the end of the world because your home record's going to make up for it. And it's just building for, if they would keep this up and get into the playoffs, they're going to have that great home record with a great home atmosphere, and it just all kind of just builds up.
100%. 100%. So when this game goes final, we'll hear from Mike Schild. Our Padres insider Kevin Acee will join us coming up as well today at 5:30. Really good show lined up. We mentioned yesterday Latrell Davis, right? They had this veteran guard from San Jose State who shot 38% from three and hit 10 combined three-pointers against the Aztecs in 2 games. I mean, he was a complete thorn in their side. And San Jose State nearly beat the Aztecs not just once, but arguably twice last year. I mean, they had huge leads against the Aztecs a couple of times. Well, this roster continues to come into focus, Brent. Within the last few moments, the Aztecs have gotten a high school commit that had recently decommitted from USC, a top 60 national commit, Elzie Harrington, Elzie Harrington, who is another impressive young guard to add to Brian Dutcher and his staff's team for 2025 and beyond. Now, this will be a true freshman heading into 2025-26. The name has been out there a little bit here recently after Harrington decommitted from SC. He had been tied a bit to San Diego State. But Elzie Harrington, who is going to go down as one of the highly ranked prep players that San Diego State has probably signed over the last 10 or 15 years. So, San Diego State has won with their type of recruit. It doesn't always have to be this like 5-star top 20 player in the country. I mean, some of the best players in San Diego State history probably didn't have stars next to their names. But Elzie Harrington, I think in the star system is probably a consensus 4-star player who is out of Southern California, I believe. This is happening on the fly, had committed to USC. Some recruiting services have him around the 60th best player in the country. I mean, that's a really highly sought after player. The Aztecs had a couple of blue chippers a year ago, Pharaoh Compton, Taj DeGourville. They're adding to that youth. And you look at the way Brian Dutcher is putting a roster together right now, and it's impressive because they're building from within, right? You always have to have those guys from your system that are playing 2, 3, 4 years for you. I'm thinking about Miles Heide and BJ Davis right now. Shoot, Magoon Guath is entering his 3rd year if you include the red shirt. And then you look at like a Pharaoh Compton, Taj DeGourville started here, are going to enter their true sophomore season next year. And now you're adding again with youth with Elzie Harrington. And then you complement it with some of these pieces they've brought in. The point guard that was 3rd in the nation in assists in Sean Newman Jr., who's from Southern California, is one of those pieces they've brought in. Latrell Davis that we've been talking about. This is going to be, and the portal isn't yet closed, so I have to be cautious. But this is going to be one of the deepest, most well-rounded teams potentially in San Diego State men's basketball history. And that doesn't mean it's going to be their best team or they'll make their furthest NCAA tournament run or they'll have their highest winning percentage or most wins. But this has a chance to be one of those teams, and they've had a lot of those teams over the last 25 plus years under both Brian Dutcher and Steve Fisher. And I want to discuss that more on the other side. Sammy Long will join us in studio from Fletch Zone coming up at 2:30. We'll get into last night in the play-in tournament, what's ahead here tonight and this weekend as well. And one of the newcomers for San Diego State, Latrell Davis, is on the show coming up at 5 p.m. So just getting started. This is John and Jim. Stay with us. All right, Sammy Long from Fletch Zone. Heard weekdays right here on San Diego Sports 760 from 12 to 2. We'll swing by coming up in about 10 or so minutes. We'll talk about last night in the play-in tournament, what's ahead tonight and this weekend as well in the NBA playoffs. Kevin Acee will join us at 5:30. We'll hear from Mike Schild after the Padres and Cubs go final. The update from Petco, the Padres leading halfway home 2-1. So we just touched on this on the or during the end of that first segment there, that San Diego State has added another player to its 2025-26 roster in prep player, 4-star consensus recruit LZ Harrington. He's a 6'5" small forward out of St. John Bosco. And that just adds to what has been done here over the course of this offseason as you are retaining and you're complementing in the portal. And I think what they've done in the process is put together one of the deepest and most well-rounded teams in San Diego State basketball history. I truly believe that. And again, like I kind of said on the way out of the last segment, that doesn't assure anything, of the team and what's going to play out. I mean, they have to prove it obviously on floor. And there have been some darn good teams in recent history with Sweet 16s and the national championship game, the pandemic team that went 30-2. 2011, 2014, and others in there under Brian Dutcher and Steve Fisher. But, from the moment, Brent, that we found out Magoon Guath would be back, and maybe that was the biggest of them all. It's not always who you add, it's who you keep. And the moment we found out Magoon Guath was withdrawing from the portal, now he's got to keep his name potentially from appearing, in the NBA. But if he does, in fact, return for his redshirt sophomore season, I think we might circle that moment as like the impetus to put the Aztecs in this position where they have a chance to have crazy high expectations heading into the year and be a preseason favorite in the Mountain West potentially.
I just think it's funny because I remember after the North Carolina game, everyone was just jumping to conclusions about, this is the beginning of the demise of the Aztec basketball program, and we're going to lose this person and this person, and this NIL. And then Goon comes back and, we get that point guard, and then we get the guy yesterday, and now we get another high school recruit today. And it sure doesn't seem like they're slowing down or that, they've lost a step. Like people are trying to make it, seem like all of a sudden, just based off that one game that, Dutch and the guys can't recruit anymore and everything else. And it's just kind of goes to show you, we told everyone not to panic. Just, let Dutch and them do their thing. They've done this before. They know what they're doing.
Dutch said that with us. Remember, he said to the fan base, he said, you can't panic. This is part of it. Kind of trust in the process. But you're so right. I'm glad you brought up the point that there has been this thought out there that the deck is stacked against you, especially when you're not in a power league. That how can we compete? There's a transfer portal. There's unlimited free agency. There's no salary cap. How can we keep up with the Joneses, so to speak? And there's been that, I don't even know what the word would be, like that disenfranchised feeling if you're a fan of college athletics and things aren't going perfectly for your program, and if you're on the outside looking in. But you can't say that about San Diego State basketball because the Aztecs have positioned themselves to be on that national level, right? They've done it for so long now that, as Dutch always says, I'm paraphrasing, like, tell me the rules and we'll figure out a way to be successful. As the rules change around us, we're going to put ourselves in a position to not just be good, but hopefully better than that. And again, they've been in the NCAA tournament 7 of 8 years under Brian Dutcher. They've had all these Sweet 16 teams, 4 of them since 2011. And I'm telling you what, this roster, and again, we don't know if Miles Bird ends up in the NBA. He might. He's a talent. But if you get Bird back, if you get Guath back, we haven't even mentioned for the better part of the last year because of injury, Reese Waters, who could arguably be their best player. And then again, Magoon Guath, who's one of the most promising young big men in the country, two-way players, terrific shot blocker, great offensive game. And now, again, just the additions they've made. Jeremiah Oden, who played in the Mountain West, a slasher and a big man. And Latrell Davis, the sharpshooter from San Jose State, that came in within the last 24 hours. And again, the point guard Newman out of Southern California, who was third in the nation last year in assists. It's really incredible. Now, I always have the caveat of the transfer portal is open for the time being, not much longer, a few more days. I think it's maybe the 22nd, Brent. But all it takes is an email or a tweet, and like you're in that portal. The player they added today, LZ Harrington, and thank you, Darnay Tripp, for tweeting out some of his numbers. He's either 6'5" or 6'6", so he's in that small forward size, and he's in that typical Aztec athletic frame where he can play multiple positions. He's physical. He's long. He already has good like physicality and size. And again, he was committed to SC, decommitted. He had offers from UCLA and Arizona State. And as a senior at St. John Bosco, 16.3 points, 5.2 assists, 3.4 rebounds per game. So, and I want to say he's on a team with the number one prep player in the country, and that might be Brandon McCoy. And he's a consensus 4-star. I'm talking about LZ Harrington, a consensus 4-star, consensus top 75, top 100 player in the country. I mean, this is a big ad for SDSU. Am I right in that? Is it McCoy on St. John Bosco? I thought you might have just looked that up. What did you have though, Brett? Okay, you didn't. I'm pretty sure he's teammates with another, again, huge high school prospect. But man, I mean, I don't know what to say other than if you're an Aztec fan, how can you not be excited? Like that's basically the point here. That on the heels of, again, college basketball and college athletics changing all around us, like everything is changing all around us. And the Aztecs just a couple of years ago were in a national championship game, and you're like, I don't want things to change. Everything was good the way it was with these 4th, 5th, and 6th year players. But even as things change, I feel as if, and maybe tell me if you think I'm biased, but I mean, look at what they're doing right now. I feel as if they're equipped to deal with the changes. And whatever the rules are, they're going to adapt and they're going to be successful. And I think this offseason is proving that right now.
Well, not to go all Gene Hackman and Hoosiers, but it's, one of those things where you take all the, all the side stuff out of it. They still got to play the games.
No doubt.
And, Dutch knows how to coach and he knows how to get his teams ready. So, they all this other stuff is just part of basketball now. And it's kind of the Billy Bean adapt or die thing. It's just they're adapting well. And some of other mid-major schools, they aren't going to be able to do, it's going to be sink or swim thing. And right now the Aztecs are swimming. So
no doubt about it. All right, we're going to catch up with Sammy Long from Fletch Zone on the other side. We'll talk about the NBA postseason. We can talk some Aztec hoops and Padres as well. Sammy Long, you hear him weekdays from 12 to 2 with Ben Fletcher right here on San Diego Sports 760. We do have a giveaway today, a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place. Kevin Acey is on the show after the Padres game. New Aztec Latrell Davis will join us at 5 p.m. Don't go anywhere. It's Sean and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Summit Racing Equipment. In NBA play-in news, last night, the Magic beat the Hawks. They're going to go on to face the number 2 seed Celtics. The Hawks will face the winner of tonight's Bulls Heat game, which starts around 4:30. And the winner of that game will face the number 1 seeded Cleveland Cavaliers. In the West, the Warriors beat the Grizzlies and will move on to take on the Rockets in the first round. Memphis will play the winner of tonight's Kings Mavs game, which starts around 7 o'clock. And the winner of that game will move on to face number 1 seed OKC. The Padres and Cubs are underway down at Petco right now. It is 2-1 Padres in the bottom of the 5th. The Padres do have a couple runners on. Tonight at 6 o'clock on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. That's SDFC Midweek Live right here at 6 o'clock on your home for San Diego FC, San Diego Sports 760. It's Car Care Month, and Summit Racing has what you need for bumper-to-bumper care. Revive the interior, exterior, underhood, and more. Shop summitracing.com. Use promo code RADIO for $10 off an order of $100 or more. Exclusions apply. Offer ends 5/4/25.
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Sans Jim. I would explain it to Jim if he was here. That means without Jim. Jim isn't here. We do have Sammy Long from Fletch Zone. Brent likes that.
Jim would be like, well, that stuff at the beach.
Yeah, Sans. Yeah, exactly. You can hear Sammy with Ben Fletcher weekdays here on San Diego Sports 760 from 12 to 2. You guys have been doing it for how long now? It's been a half a year.
I think 6 months now.
You guys are doing a great job.
I appreciate that. We're trying to follow in your guys' footsteps.
So, well, you're having success. We're kind of following your footsteps since we're on after you every single day. But again, if you're looking for more sports talk, you can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760 Fletch Zone. Weekdays with Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long from 12 to 2. You're a bit of the resident NBA insider here. And obviously Jim talks NBA because of the Warriors, and
Brent and I always debate it after.
Yeah, definitely Brent as well. So last night we start this play-in tournament. I haven't gotten your 2 cents on it. Are you a proponent? Are you a fan of the play-in tournament in general or not?
I love it.
Okay.
I think it's really added some to the NBA. I mean, it used to be when it was just the top 8. The last month of the season felt, unless there was like 1 or 2 races, it was just the last week. It didn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun how it does add this, but there's also, being the 10 seed versus the 7 seed, you have 2 cracks at it. You get home court advantage. So there is, advantages to being a higher seed, but I do think it creates some fun drama and a little mini March Madness there in the NBA, kind of stealing from that for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because over the last week of the regular season, everyone quits on the Warriors. Like, oh my gosh, they had opportunities. And now they're in the play-in because of what happened in their last couple of days. And then there's last night, and Steph is Steph, and they're now officially in the playoffs. Like, how do you see the Warriors? Are they a legitimate Western Conference threat or not?
I think they're going to beat Houston. I do not believe in Houston, even though Houston's been solid all year. They're really good. They're the number 1 rebounding team in the league. They're 5th in defensive efficiency, except they're 28 in 3-point shot. They cannot hit. And then that's about the worst team to play, the Golden State Warriors, if you can't shoot the 3 ball. And what Jimmy Butler did, giving Steph a legit number 2 who can get to the free throw line, that's something that they just haven't had in years since Clay in his prime and Kevin Durant. So Jimmy Butler with the 38, that's going to be a tough out for anyone, just the kind of pedigree. And Steve Kerr's the best coach in the playoffs.
So what about the rest of the West? Obviously the Lakers put together a great season. They added Luka. I feel like just from the outside looking in, most people would tell you it's kind of the Lakers maybe to lose in the West. I don't know if that's fair with the year that Oklahoma City had. So how do you see the race in the West and where the Lakers in that conversation?
I think the Lakers, I take my bias out of it as a diehard Laker fan. They have what it takes. I understand why Oklahoma City is the favorite right now. They've run away with it all year. They're number 1 defensively in basically every category. So that can't be slept on. It does concern me with Oklahoma City, the fact that is Jalen Williams as your number 2 a legit threat to get through the Nuggets? Jamal Murray's the number 2, or LeBron on the Lakers the number 2, Jimmy Butler the number 2 on the Warriors. I think in clutch time scenarios at the end of games, we could see Oklahoma City have some problems on who's taking the last shot. Use double Shea. And the Lakers, the only concern is lack of size. Jackson Hayes cannot get in foul trouble in the playoffs. If he does, it's a problem because that's about the only big on the Lakers, but the Lakers do have the advantage of kind of doing a small ball thing. I think they're going to be doing that a lot to Minnesota, take Rudy Gobert out of the game and play Rui Hachimura at the 5. The Lakers, the top 3 is lethal, and they could get there. If your third best on-ball defenders guarding Austin Reeves, that's a problem for most teams.
It's just so fascinating because you add in Luka, and he's only been there for, it's only been a couple of months.
2-3 months.
How many games has he even played as the Lakers? 20, maybe? I just wonder, like, is that enough? Like, is everything full steam ahead with the Lakers in year 1 with Luka, where it clicks at that, best, most, just all cylinder from year 1 with Luka and LeBron? But then again, how often are you? How many better chances are you going to get than this with Luka and LeBron? LeBron isn't going to be here forever, obviously.
No, and then that's how. With the lack of size, when the Lakers have been at their best, is LeBron kind of does his thing for the first 3 quarters. It's a lot of Luka, a lot of Austin Reeves. And when they're at their best, LeBron's on the wing and Luka's drawing 2 guys on him. And LeBron he's one of the quickest steps in all of basketball. So now the LeBron being 40, that is something that's got to be taken into account. Luka and Reeves can't have off nights, but again, when your third best on-ball defender is playing Austin Reeves, it's just tough for most teams. And even though the lack of size, you look at Luka and Austin Reeves, not traditionally good defenders. Jared Vanderbilt and Dorian Finney-Smith have really held down the defense for the Lakers, and 2 names that a lot of people might not have heard too much of before this run.
Talking NBA playoffs, Sammy Long from the Fletch Zone. You can hear him weekdays right here on San Diego Sports 760 from 12 to 2. In the East, Cleveland or Boston, and why? And is there anyone else?
No, the Knicks are the only team if they're healthy, but the problem is they're 0-11 against these teams. You go top seeds, they really haven't. Now, a few of those games, Jalen Brunson was hurt for a little while. They on paper have the starting 5, but I think we've seen Tibbs he runs his guys into the ground. He plays 8 guys. He does it all season long, and they're dead by the time they get to the playoffs. Cleveland, Boston feel like the matchup. I give it to Boston right now. The only thing that worries me is that Jaylen Brown's getting knee injections right now, right before the playoff, which they keep saying that that's not a problem, but we'll see about that. But I just don't know that the Cavs have enough. Is Donovan Mitchell going to be that good over a 7-game series to offset Tatum and Brown? I don't think so. Hell, Peyton Pritchard comes off the bench and he's like 6th man of the year. The Boston's just stacked from top to bottom. I'd go Boston.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like the West this year, and the West has always been deeper, right, than the East, or traditionally has been deeper than the East. And this year, like we've mentioned the Lakers and Oklahoma City, and hey, the Warriors might be favored over Houston. And we haven't even talked about the Clippers. The Clippers have played incredible basketball. They've got the veterans. They have a healthy Kawhi. We've seen what a healthy Kawhi can mean in a postseason. Like, are they a dark horse to make noise here based on how they finished?
That series is tough to handicap there because you look at Denver. Denver's had the pedigree. They won a title 2 years ago, but then you don't have a coach, and there's a lot of beef over Russell Westbrook getting time. Apparently, a lot of the team felt like that shouldn't be happening, and I kind of agree with them. I do think the Clippers win the series. The only way the Clippers go far is if James Harden sticks to being a traditional point guard. If he turns back into, he's been a choke artist in the playoffs in years past, and that happens when he turns into a scorer. When he is a traditional point guard and lets Norman Powell and Kawhi do most of the lifting on the scoring end, they could be dangerous. But I just don't trust that James Harden's not going to do that in a game 7 against Denver where he wants to shoot 10 threes. He did it in Houston. He's done it in LA. And can Kawhi stay healthy for 2 months? It's yet to be seen.
That's a really good point. That is a really good point. All right, tonight we have the 9th place versus 10th place showdowns in both the Eastern and Western conferences for a chance then to advance to the actual playoffs if they can come through with a win on Friday. Heat, Bulls in the East in Chicago, Mavericks, Kings in the West. Or is that game in Chicago? Yeah, the game's in Chicago, and the other game is in Sacramento. Who do you like? Bulls, Heat, and Kings, Mavericks. Tonight.
I like the Bulls in a tight one. Miami, I know they've been there before with Adebayo, Tyler Herro. They're a little bit more tested, but the Bulls, if you look at their roster, got a pretty fun young team. Kobe White, Matisse Buzelis is really good. Josh Giddey's been playing really good ball the last couple months. The Bulls, if they were actually just bad for a year and could land a top draft pick, could actually be relevant in the Eastern Conference. They kind of have a Pittsburgh Steelers situation going on where they win enough games where they don't get in the lottery, but they
like good enough, but not allowing you a chance to really make noise
to get a franchise altering player. But I do like Chicago tonight. I think they get there, and I think the Kings are a blowout. Sabonis has dominated Anthony Davis all the ways when he was a Laker. And outside of PJ Washington having a big game, Kyrie Irving's not there. I don't see the offensive firepower for the Mavs. And Zach LaVine and Sabonis and them have been playing pretty good ball. The one alarming thing is Malik Monk's out, but I still think they get it done. LaVine has a big night.
You watch a lot of NBA.
It is one of my favorite things to watch.
I love it. Switching gears for a second, because obviously baseball season underway. I'm telling you what, man, this NL West, and we get it. It's a long season. No one's going to play this clip all year, right? The Padres aren't playing at a 14-4 winning percentage all year, but Padres, Dodgers, Giants, Diamondbacks have all been good to start the year. I mean, I guess there's a world where you can have 4 teams from one division in because there's 3 wild cards. But I mean, this division is getting 3 teams to playoffs.
Well, and the crazy part about it is none of these teams have played each other. We've been talking about the schedule. It's not like they've been beating up on each other.
20 games in, yeah.
I mean, you see the dominance that this NL West has outside of the Rockies on the rest of the league, because they're really running through everyone. I mean, the Padres so far have been fantastic, with the bullpen being the best in baseball. And we talked about it earlier on the show. Padres Dodgers games 1 through 3, when they were kind of slapping the ball, putting pressure on the base pass, they kind of had the Dodgers on the ropes. And when they started swinging for the fences, games 4 and 5, everything changed. And this Padre team looks special. I'm really high on the Diamondbacks. I think that rotation is something that could be a hell for any team, including the Dodgers in the playoffs. They've won 5 of 6 games, and I expect the Dodgers to get it together. They got some bullpen arms coming back. So the NOS is stacked. I don't know how it's going to finish.
Yeah, it's been a fun start. Again, if you're a baseball fan, there's so many that are in Southern California. Look at these crowds in San Diego again, a Wednesday day game against the Cubs.
That was great on Monday night. The atmosphere at Petco was unreal.
It's unbelievable. I mean, 47,000 people on Monday night. You're watching around baseball, and it's cold and it's rainy, and there's 10,000 people in ballparks. You got near 50,000 people at Petco Park. It has been an absolute joy to watch the start of the year. Sammy, appreciate you hopping on, talking some NBA postseason. Again, you can listen to Sammy each and every weekday right here on San Diego Sports 760 from 12 to 2, right before John and Jim. Enjoy the postseason tonight. We'll catch up again tomorrow here on the radio.
I appreciate you, boys.
All right, that is Sammy Long. We will react to what's going on right now at Petco Park between the Padres and the Cubs. Kevin Acee at 5:30 when this game goes final. We'll hear from Mike Schilt. Newest Aztec Latrell Davis, the transfer from San Jose State, will join us at 5 p.m. This is John and Jim. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. San Diego Sports 760 is 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Bonus Bucks giveaway. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen to the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. We have Matt Brown, who is a great college athletics resource. There's so much going on. There's settlements, there's NIL, there's realignment, there's media deals. There are quarterbacks that are entering portals during spring football. I mean, it is when they say wild, wild west, I honestly don't think anyone's kidding when they say that. Like, it's not cliche. So Matt Brown has been a good resource for the show over the years. Extra Points is his newsletter. He does a really good job. He'll join us at 3:15. Kevin Acey at 5:30. The newest Aztec commit, the San Jose State transfer guard, the sharpshooter, Latrell Davis out of Leeds, England, will join us coming up at 5 p.m.
So does that mean he has an English accent?
You know, I've never spoken with him. My presumption is yes. He moved to the U.S. when he was 16 during the pandemic because I think his seasons were getting postponed because of the pandemic in Europe. So he came over here. I think he initially moved to Florida and started playing again as a high school player and then got that scholarship offer and attended San Jose State for 2 years. So I would assume so if you grew up and your first 16 years were in Leeds, England, but we're going to find out firsthand when we catch up with them at 5 p.m. here today. The update from Petco Park is that the Padres continue to cling to a 2-1 lead. We thought going into this game, this would be a lot like yesterday because you just have a good pitching matchup. I really like Matthew Boyd of the Cubs. He's came in with a great ERA, sub-2 ERA this year. Good left-handed pitcher. The Padres have struggled at times against left-handed pitching. And then Nick Pivetta has been an awesome, savvy signing by AJ Preller. And the reason I say it is, well, certainly they could use the starting pitching in the absence of Yu Darvish right now. And secondly, not only did they land him, they landed for multiple years, and they did it at a low dollar threshold. So Pivetta has been a really nice addition for the Padres. Matthew Boyd's been really good for the Cubs, and we have what you would expect, a low-scoring game where the Padres right now are leading Chicago 2-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning. Interestingly, this is already the 6th meeting this year between these two teams. If the Cubs win this game, well, they win the season series, and they would have taken 4 of 6 from the Padres this year. So the Padres need this to split the season series and to get a series win at home against the Cubs. But when it goes final, we'll hear from Mike Schilt. And then again, Kevin Acey will join us coming up later as well at 5:30. One newsworthy item to report from earlier is that Jackson Merrill has begun baseball activities. So prior to today's afternoon game, he was on field. Now he's not yet, I guess, technically running, but he's doing drills. I don't know if it's jogging and light activity and on-field work. I think the general belief, and we'll ask Kevin the latest when he joins us in a couple of hours. I think the general belief is that when Merrill is eligible to come off the IL on Friday, he won't because it's already Wednesday and he's not yet running. And with the way this team is playing and with his youth and with that contract, why not give him another day or 2 or 3 or even longer? Maybe it's another series or 2 for Jackson Merrill. But the good news is, and I think it's very good news, is that he's begun baseball activities and hopefully is making his way back towards the big leagues sooner rather than later. He got off to that awesome start and signed that big deal, the 9-year deal. There was so much optimism around Jackson Merrill, and there still is, but he's been out. Padres keep winning, and hopefully, Brett, we see him sooner rather than later.
Well, if they would put him back on the 10-day IL, he would miss out on 3 in Houston, 3 in Detroit, and then they come back to play Tampa Bay.
Well, no, at this point, though, it can be ended at any point once it's beyond 10.
Oh, okay.
So they could take him off at 11. They could take him off at 17. The only circumstance where that changes.
I forgot they changed that.
The only circumstance now where that changes is if you end up going on a 60-day. Like, you might make a decision on someone. I'm making up. If Cronenworth's rib situation was so bad, they're like, there's no scenario where he's coming back in 2 months, put him on the 60-day. It gives him more flexibility. But when you're on a 10-day, it's anywhere from 10 to whatever number of days is when you can return. So if it's not Houston, to your point, it'll be the next series.
My underlying point was those are winnable series without Jackson, to where if he needed to sit out for, like you said, a couple extra days just to be sure, then they should be able to get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, if it was one injury, you're a lot more capable of overcoming it. This has kind of been our point. Now, to their credit and Mike Schilt's credit and everyone's credit, they're winning in the absence of a lot of pieces. If it was only Jackson Merrill, if it was only Jake Cronenworth, you say, well, okay, get this one player back and we're already pretty well off. But because it's multiple guys, like it is Merrill and Cronenworth, and it's a backup outfielder in Brandon Lockridge, and we're waiting on you, Darvish, and we'll get an update from Kevin on you, Darvish. He did throw off a mound, I think, yesterday. He's working closer to throwing a bullpen and then maybe making a rehab start or two and making his way back towards the major leagues. But it's kind of impressive that they've been able to deal with the injuries as well as they've been able to deal with them. With all that being said, could you use Jackson Merrill last night? Yes. When you lose a game 2-1 and you're 0 for 7 with men in scoring position and you don't take advantage of opportunities, not to say Merrill would have been the difference. We'll never know. I mean, he could have struck out or grounded out or not batted it in those situations. But when you don't have a player like Merrill in there, and you got Tatis, he's been great, and Machado and Arise. But when you don't have a player like Jackson Merrill, like you're missing a huge piece. And maybe that was first felt last night for the Padres in that 2-1 loss in 10 innings. So again, the update from Petco is the Padres have a lead in the 6th inning over the Cubs 2-1. They're trying to add on as they have men on the corners and only one out there in the bottom of the 6th inning there again at Petco Park. And again, we'll be joined coming up around 3:15 by Matt Brown. Extra Points. We'll talk more about the state of college athletics coming up at 3:15. If you missed it earlier, we touched on this during the first part of the hour. Aztecs have added again. Men's basketball adding again, this time not via the portal, but via the prep route. Elsie Harrington, who was a USC commit, 6'5", 6'6", small forward, consensus 4-star, consensus top 100 player in the country, has committed to Brian Dutcher and his staff here on the Mesa. This comes in the heels of Latrell Davis, the sharpshooter, the San Jose State transfer, also committing to San Diego State. That was via the portal yesterday. It has been a really, really exciting offseason, I would say, for Aztec basketball fans. Now, on the flip side of that, the transfer portal is now open in football, as there's a 10-day spring window that has just opened up today. That, of course, applies to San Diego State and Sean Lewis as well. And they've got their spring showcase on Saturday out at Snapdragon Stadium. By the way, free event. I think you just need to claim tickets at goaztecs.com. I hope we see Aztec fans out there on Saturday at Snapdragon Stadium. But it's like, what's the saying now? The portal taketh and the portal giveth. And that's just the world that we're living in. And some teams take advantage of it to a greater extent. Other teams are hurt by it more widely. I think Sean Lewis has done a really good job on the football side, retaining a lot of this talent, adding quarterbacks this offseason, but keeping a lot of these defensive pieces like a Trey White, Tano Latuli, Chris Johnson. There are others, Dale Sean Staley in there. And I think Brian Dutcher and his staff have just really been great over the years at orchestrating this. Yes, they've had some losses in the portal era, like most programs, but I think they've also benefited from it as well.
I think Nike should make a shirt out of that.
Isn't that a shirt?
Like how in the tournament they always have like those motivational slogans for like
the shooting shirts?
Victory. Yeah, it's like that should be one. It's just portal giveth, portal giveth,
and the portal. You're right. This past year's shooting shirt, I think, was nothing's easy.
Yeah,
which kind of was true. Like if you watch the Aztec season, the way they got to the NCAA tournament, it was not easy.
Well, there's a couple other Jordan schools that use nothing easy this year.
And then there was like Under Armour that was like they count us out. Was the
or
the
doubt
slogan.
us or something like that.
Doubt us or whatever it was. But listen, the Aztecs under Dutch have been a mainstay in the NCAA tournament. Sean Lewis trying to maintain his roster and build off his first year and get the Aztecs back to bowl eligibility in football. And again, that spring showcase will be out at Snapdragon Stadium on Saturday at 1 p.m. If you want to attend, you can claim free tickets. You can do it at goaztecs.com. I'll be out there. Ben Fletcher will be out there. Hope to see you out there this weekend at Snapdragon Stadium. All right, Matt Brown, Extra Points newsletter with more on college athletics at 3:15. The latest from Petco Park coming up. We've got a giveaway for you in the 4 o'clock hour.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. In NBA play-in news, the Magic took down the Hawks last night. They're going to go on to face the Celtics in the first round. The Hawks will go on to face the winner of tonight's Bulls Heat game, which will start around 4:30. And the winner of that game will face the number 1 seeded Cleveland Cavaliers. In the West, Golden State beat the Grizzlies and will move on to face the Rockets in the first round. Memphis will play the winner of tonight's Kings Mavs game, which will start around 7 o'clock. And the winner of that game will move on to face number 1 seed OKC. The Padres and Cubs are underway down at Petco Park. Right now, it is 2-1 Padres going into the top of the 7th. Tonight at 6 o'clock on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. That's SDFC Midweek Live at 7 o'clock right here on your home for SDFC at San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends June 14th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of John and Jim. If you're wondering where Jim is, so are we. I'm an hour in and I'm like, man, this show is going perfectly. And I'm like, oh, that's right. Jim's not here. It's like everything I'm saying is making complete sense and I'm agreeing with myself and everything is calm and simple and easy. Nobody's yelling at each other.
There's no sneezing every 2 seconds.
Sneezing. We are being told by Jim, he's the source, that he will be back tomorrow. So this is a Wednesday off day. Jim decided, since the Padres lost for the first time all season at home, he's like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm not talking about that. Everything was great. Jim likes things when it's easy. I hate to say it as simple as that, but we do all these shows at night on YouTube talking about the Padres, and man, it's been awesome because they've gotten off to this incredible start, and they were literally an inning away from being 12-0 at home, which has been done 3 other times since 1900. That's how good they've been to start the year, and we'll see. They lose yesterday. Now they're trying to get to 12-1 at home. They're leading the Cubs in the stretch, 7th inning stretch right now, 2-1. I mentioned there in the update how good Fernando Tatis Jr. in the open, how good Fernando Tatis Jr. has been this year. Everyone that's been watching the Padres is aware of that. He's got another RBI hit in this game, and as Brent just told you in that update, the Padres are leading 2-1. But I mean, Tatis, and we've seen it before. When he's healthy, he produces unlike most players in the sport. I mean, this guy is a true unicorn on the field. And now it's just, can you play all year and be healthy?
Well, in a way, when Sammy was on, we were talking about Kawhi. In a way, Tatis is sort of like a baseball equivalent of Kawhi, to where, he has all the talent in the world. It's just his body doesn't always agree and just sometimes just can't hold up. So it's just, if he can stay on the field, it's like you said in the open, if he can just stay on the field, that's like his biggest goal, it shouldn't be, I'm going to get 40 homers and 40 stolen bases this year. It's just nope, I'm going to play 133 games this season, or something like that. That should be like one of his goals, is just I'm going to play more games this year than I've ever played in my career.
To your point. So his career high is 141, which is a good total.
No, that's very good.
Yeah. But you'd like to think, because of his abilities, that if he could play 155 games, obviously you'll reach your true potential. But you're right. It's like, just by being on field, everything else will take care of itself with Fernando. Like there's no world, like I was saying there, where he plays 155 games and hits 201. This is Fernando Tatis Jr. Hitting has never been an issue. He's one of the most feared hitters in professional baseball. And the one thing that's held him back has been, well, obviously his health. Had to deal with the suspension as well. And you could argue what he's done here over the first 18 games of the regular season is some of his best baseball of his career. That's how well he has played. The 6 home runs already, another RBI today. And again, I don't even overly concern myself with the numbers because it's April. We haven't even reached Easter. The numbers are all going to change. There'll be hot spells and dry spells, and these numbers aren't going to bear out all year. You can't just times everything by 10. He's not hitting 60 home runs. He's not driving in 135 or more. But can he put together his best offensive season of his career? If he does, that goes down as one of the best seasons of any Padre in any season ever. Like, it's as simple as that. That's how good he is. If he is at his best and has a career high in home runs, for example, which right now is 42, or a career high in RBIs, right now is 97. Like, if he can up the ante in those categories and hit 40-something home runs and drive in 100 runs and, slug the way he's capable of slugging and have a high OPS on base plus slugging, then you're going to watch the Padres in the postseason and hopefully make a deep run in the postseason this year, because everything's going to take care of itself if he's on the field for both Tatis and the Padres. So that's a critical piece of it. The amazing thing with the Padres this year, that, even without good health, arguably they've still been as good as most teams, if not all teams in baseball. Still the best mark in the major leagues coming into today, 14-4 overall, even with the loss yesterday. Losses are going to happen. We started the show by saying this. If your expectation is, and I saw this last night when I was doing the wrap-up show, like, oh, this is pathetic. Didn't come through in the clutch, 0 for 7. What's wrong? How is Connor Joe on this team? This is a joke. There's no jokes. The only joke is how laughably good they've been to start the year. There's no, how is Connor Joe had a terrible at bat. It's his only plate appearance of the year in the major leagues. Every Hall of Famer has had bad plate appearances, and they're in the Hall of Fame. Not to put Connor Joe in that category, but it's one game, and they had opportunities, and they didn't win. The goal heading into the series remains the goal right now, and that's win the series, which they may do with a 2-1 lead right now in the 7th inning. But if your expectation is they're either going to win every series or win every home game, you're going to be let down a lot, because they're not going to win every series, and they're not going to win every home game. But they have picked up where they left off. That was our point yesterday. Remember, they started last year slow. They were a 500 team in the second half of the year. They were 50-50 overall. We didn't know if they were trending for the postseason. It might have been a lot like 2023, deja vu all over again on that day when they were 50-50, and then they took off and they finished 43-19, and they have not stopped taking off, so to speak, at 14-4 this year. And that's an unbelievable amount of sustained success in baseball, which is hard to do. It's hard to be really good for an extended period of time, especially when you have to have a carryover of an offseason. But that's what the Padres have done to this point. All right, switching gears, we'll take a break a couple of minutes early, Brant, because Matt Brown from Extra Points will join us coming up at 3:15. We'll talk about the latest with the Pac-12, how it ties into San Diego State, its media deal, the House settlement. What's that mean for college athletics moving forward? Latrell Davis, the new Aztec guard who transferred from San Jose State, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. here today. Kevin Acee at 5:30. And when this game ends, Padres-Cubs, it'll be like a mini wrap-up show where we'll hear from Mike Schild and we'll react, and we will put a bow on this Padres-Cubs series and then look ahead to this weekend coming up between the Padres and the Astros as well down in Houston coming up on Friday. But again, for Padres fans, it's been really good. I think for Aztec basketball fans, it's been an exciting offseason. We talked earlier about the return of Magoon Guath. He withdraws from the transfer portal. I think that kind of set the stage for what has played out here over the last couple of weeks. The additions in the portal, the addition today of the prep player, LZ Harrington, who's going to be considered one of the higher ranked recruits probably in program history, or at least in recent program history. Consensus 4-star, consensus top 100 player out of St. John Bosco, 6'5", 6'6", small forward that had previously committed to USC, is now committed to Brian Dutcher and his staff on the Mesa. So good times to be an Aztec fan. Good time right now to, of course, be a Padres fan as well with the start that San Diego has had. We'll take a time out. The latest on the Pac-12 and realignment and media deals and the impact of this House settlement on NIL and transfer portal with Matt Brown on the other side. Then again, Kevin Acey at 5:30. Latrell Davis will join us at 5 p.m. And also still to come, we'll give away that 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place San Diego. We'll do that in the 4 o'clock hour, that 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place San Diego. So updates from Petco. Matt Brown, great college athletics resource from the Extra Points newsletter. He will join us on the other side. Don't go anywhere. This is John and Jim. All right, AM Radio keeps vital voices accessible. Congress can secure its future, but we need your help. Text AM to 52886 now to support keeping AM radio in cars. Tell your member of Congress to pass legislation now and keep AM radio in cars. Standard message and data rates apply. Matt Brown is a great resource for college athletic fans. And he kind of covers the business of college sports. And we've had him on a number of times to talk realignment and media deals and much more. He'll join us momentarily. We'll have the latest from Petco. Padres have added on to their lead. It's 3-1 now through 7 innings. When it goes final, we'll hear from Mike Schilt. Kevin Acee will join us coming up at 5:30. We'll have full reaction to Padres Cubs once the game goes final, which should be probably at some point in the next 30 minutes or so. We're going to catch up with Matt Brown momentarily, who has been, again, a great resource for us. There's so much. We say this all the time with Matt. Matt Brown, Extra Points newsletter, back with us, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. And I was just saying how good of a resource, Matt, you have been, I think, for our listeners over the years. And it feels like as the years pass by, college athletics becomes almost more confounding and confusing and hard to keep up with, even if it is like your true job to follow it. So I guess I'll just start with the topic of the year, which is this settlement that appears inevitable, this House settlement. Like, in layman's terms, what is this going to mean? Like, is this the beginning of the end of all the craziness, or is this just the beginning and just one more step, and there'll be more on the other side of the House settlement as well? And thanks for hopping on.
Of course, it's my pleasure. I think my best guess right now is this settlement is the beginning of another beginning. The NCAA and power conferences would certainly like this to function as something of a collective bargaining agreement without having to do any actual collective bargaining that will provide some structure and stability to athlete compensation moving forward. But I think it is pretty unlikely that this ends without additional litigation. There's already athletes that have opted out of this settlement. There's numerous significant law firms have raised major objections. And I would have to imagine as soon as the clearinghouse tries to regulate any kind of booster or collective driven NIL activity and tries to say, hey, paying this left tackle $2 million to sign 3 autographs is probably not fair market value. The second Deloitte tries to do that, I think there's going to be another lawsuit. And we're going to continue to have litigation until there's some sort of congressional action, which I know is not popular. But whether you want Congress to say there should be no employee status and we're going to codify the settlement, or whether you want collective bargaining and employee status, there's really no way to get to either of those destinations with finality without federal congressional laws.
Matt Brown, Extra Points, with us right now, John and Jim. So once this is approved, does this create, in your opinion, further separation between the Power Four and everyone else? Or does this create some guardrails that will actually level this out, the playing fields, so to speak?
I think a lot of that's going to depend on the sport. So this settlement, if approved, and the industry and legal expectation is that it will be in the coming days, schools will have the ability to share up to, I think it's like $20.5 million directly with athletes across their entire athletic department. And that will mean that the majority of those institutions are going to put the overwhelming majority of that money into football. It's difficult for me to see a world where non-power schools are going to find increased parity in football. But in other sports, I do think there is the potential pathway for that, because how schools decide to divide up that money, whether you're sharing 20 million or 5 million, is going to vary a lot from school to school. So a school like San Diego State, theoretically could decide, hey, if we kick in a couple $100,000 extra into softball, we have the ability to build a roster that will be better and better funded than many Big Ten or ACC schools. You're going to see a lot of schools that don't have football teams say, hey, we can kick in a disproportionate chunk of our money into basketball and have budgets that are comparable to SEC or Big Ten schools, at least before donor NIL kind of kicks in. So there may be some pathway in baseball and softball and hockey and other things to have increased parity. But for football, it's going to be very hard to come anywhere close to what the biggest brands are going to be putting out.
Matt Brown with us right now, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. I feel like another topic that has never ceased over the last 4 or 5 years is realignment, right? Ever since we learned about Texas and Oklahoma, the ripple effects from Texas, Oklahoma are still playing out, I feel like. When you look at the new iteration of the Pac-12, that conference isn't fully, intact, so to speak. They're still looking for at least another member to head into 2026. Will that kind of end this round of realignment, so to speak, or will there continue to be trickle down effects even after the Pac-12 is completed in the weeks and months ahead?
It's interesting because out west, I think there's two parallel tracks of realignment happening right now. And sometimes they'll converge and sometimes they won't, right? On one hand, yeah, the Pac-12 needs at least one other football institution. And the schools that are on that potential list that seem to be the same schools that were on that list 5 months ago, or whether that's like a handful of institutions in the American Athletic, another handful of institutions that might currently still be in the Mountain West, and then Texas State for some reason. But you also have a significant realignment happening across almost every other level of mid-major leagues in the West, with the WAC just losing Cal Baptist is very likely to lose Utah Valley to either the Big West, the Summit League, or the Mountain West in the coming weeks. And that league is, in my reporting, likely to completely disappear. And you have the Mountain West sniffing at other basketball-only institutions. You have the WCC trying to expand. You have the Big West trying to expand. And so some of those moves will be in response to things that the Pac-12 and the Mountain West end up doing. But I think you could see a world where the University of San Diego, where UC San Diego, where lots of mid-major basketball-oriented schools could potentially be playing in a different league in 2 years. Depending on how the chips fall with the Mountain West.
It's going to be interesting to watch. We've been watching out west, obviously, for a long time, ever since San Diego State elected to, again, leave the Mountain West for the new version of the Pac-12. Matt Brown with us right now from Extra Points, John and Jim. So sticking with the Pac-12 for a moment, how does this all end in your opinion? Not necessarily with expansion, but further media deal. Like, what are you expecting this to look like? How does it impact the Mountain West? And what is it going to mean for these Western football playing leagues?
It's really a very interesting question, because I have tried to do other reporting on this specifically over the last couple of months. And the TV consultants and some of the kind of third-party industry people that I rely on for some of this have mostly been really quiet about who's potentially interested in the Pac-12. And I'll tell you, I've also learned to become a lot more conservative in my reporting on this topic, because I feel like I got burned a little bit from some university sources in the current Pac-12 about, no, we're a media deal's coming. We're going to be working with some of these new challenger brands, or NBC or TNT is going to be involved. And of course, that ultimately didn't end up happening, and that took a lot of people in this industry ultimately by surprise. I'm sure that there's going to be interest, whether that's with the CW, whether that's with TNT, Turner, whether that's with some of these other networks for this inventory. Western time zone, late night basketball, late night football is always going to have an audience. Do I think it's going to be a deal that pays every institution $15 million a year? I don't. Will it be enough to, I think, really for both of these leagues to function where they need to be? Probably. But the tricky thing with trying to break down television deals is that the valuation number you get is just as much about timing and who else is bidding as it is about who's actually in your conference or anything, which I know can be frustrating for fans.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And we'll see if we get some resolution here in the weeks ahead. It appears as if it's almost necessary for both the Pac-12 and the Mountain West to have some resolution sooner rather than later, right, man? They're also dealing with litigation. Like, how is that impacting the futures of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West, that they're in litigation that is potentially being mediated right now?
Yeah, so that's definitely part of it. And this is kind of one of the frustrating things if you're in higher education right now, that I believe legitimately impacts realignment and some of these other strategic decisions. You've got litigation between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. You've got your legal exposure with the House settlement, and then potentially other lawsuits that will happen after that settlement is secured. But for all of these public institutions right now, and even some of the private ones, you're also facing a ton of regulatory uncertainty for stuff that has nothing to do with sports, but may impact your risk management as a university. If you're an institution like many public schools are in the West that heavily recruit international students to fill your to pay full tuition and kind of subsidize some of your local residents, well, changes in the federal government can make that much more difficult. If you're a research institution and you rely on NIH grants or potentially Pell grants or other federal funding, well, that might get cut too. And suddenly what looked like a completely understandable and legitimate risk or manageable risk on the athletic side, depending on how some other things break, might look a little bit less defensible. It's very difficult, I think, for a university president or an athletic director to try to make budget forecasts for the next 6 months, because a lot of stability that people in this industry have taken for granted is just not there right now.
That's really interesting. What's the moral of the story, if there is one, in terms of how the situation is played out with Tennessee's starting quarterback who enters the portal, with leverage? Like, who has the leverage in these situations? Is it the student athlete? Is it the collectives? Is it the boosters? Is it the programs? Like, is this something we're going to see more and more of in the revenue sharing era, or the revenue sharing era put an end to some of this?
I think the moral of the story is, if you are going to make a 7-figure business decision, whether you are an athlete or an angel investor or just a guy, by God, you need to have quality representation. And
Right.
I will go so far as to say to the athletes who may be listening to this, you should get yourself a licensed agent who has passed the bar in the state of California. You should not use your dad. You should not use a friend. You should not use an uncle or somebody who hit you up on Twitter DMs, because you need a professional and someone who's done athlete representation and litigation and discussions, who's going to have a more informed view about what leverage is. I look at the Nico situation as a guy that signed an absolute top of the market deal back when he was a high school recruit, and then came in one of the most QB friendly offenses you can find in college football at Tennessee, and couldn't complete 60% of his passes, and by every metric is not a top half quarterback in that league. And then he decides, no, I want top of market compensation, or rather his camp does. Not going to get it. And he went from a team that should be competing for the college football playoff to a team that I don't think is going to be competing for the Holiday Bowl next year. And the checks will still cash, but it's hard to look at that on paper and think that his camp won.
Yeah, it's a fascinating situation. I feel like we'll be seeing more of it potentially in the future as well. Matt, always appreciate your time. Again, a great resource for our listeners here in San Diego, at Matt Brown EP on social media and X. Does a great job with this Extra Points newsletter. And thank you for the insight here today in San Diego.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, friends.
All right, great stuff. Matt Brown from Extra Points. All right, updates from Petco coming up on the other side. The wrap is ahead. Your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place San Diego. Kevin Acey at 5:30. New Aztec transfer Latrell Davis from San Jose State will join us at 5 p.m. This is John and Jim.
Memphis and will take on the Rockets in the first round. Memphis will go on to play the winner of tonight's Kings-Mavs game, and the winner of that game will move on to face number 1 seed OKC. Right now, the Padres and Cubs are underway down at Petco Park. Right now, in the bottom of the 8th, it is the Padres holding on to a slim 3-2 lead over the Cubs. Tonight at 6 o'clock on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live tonight at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends June 14th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
All right, we'll give away some Sesame Place San Diego tickets in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll catch up with Kevin Acey in 2 hours at 5:30. Newest Aztec, Latrell Davis will join us, the San Jose State transfer, the outstanding three-point shooter. He will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Padres and Cubs, another good one. Padres clinging to a 3-2 eighth inning lead. And listen, when you manage in the major leagues, when you're Mike Schilt or any of these 30 managers, and you have to do this job 162 plus times every single season, you don't pull all the right strings always. That's impossible. There's so many decisions to be made over the course of 162 games, like truly thousands of decisions that managers are making over the course of a year. But, you know, Mike Schilt, as we've documented on this show, has been an outstanding regular season manager. Does he still have work to do in the postseason? Well, yeah, just like the Padres do as well. But like today to this point is a good example of Mike Schilt just pulling the right strings. Down a couple of relievers today. He turns to Wandy Peralta in the 8th inning. And in a one-run game facing the Cubs' best hitter, arguably, in Kyle Tucker, Wandy Peralta with the tying run at second base strikes out Tucker on 4 pitches. You had Robert Suarez up. Could have gone to Suarez, the closer, for a 4-out save. Stuck with Wandy Peralta. Peralta strikes out Kyle Tucker. Padres continue to be in the lead right now, 3-2. And we'll see if they can add on to this lead in the bottom of the 8th inning, or if Robert Suarez is going to need to protect a 1-run lead in the 9th. Obviously, Suarez has been outstanding, near perfect so far this year for San Diego. And again, the difference here today is the winner of the series wins the series. This is the rubber match. Padres trying to have that happy flight to Houston as they have a chance to complete a 5-1 homestand, get to 12-1 at home this year, get to 15-4 overall. And Cubs and Padres has been a really good series to start this year. The one thing we've heard from Padres fans and some around baseball is, well, yeah, the Padres have gotten off to a good start, but who have they played? Which I always think is unfair. And then people reference, well, you know, the best team they've played is Chicago, and they're just 2-3 against the Cubs. Like, wait until they play the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies, right, or whomever else. Where I would say, well, they've played a good enough schedule. Yes, the Cubs are included in that. Yeah, the Cubs have played the Padres relatively well. Padres swept the series from Cleveland, and Cleveland, I think outside of that Padres series, is 9-4 on the year. And they swept a 4-game series from Atlanta, and finally Atlanta is at least improving here. And let's be honest, we're going to look up at some point this summer, and Atlanta will be competing for either the NL East or a playoff spot. So to say that they've played this absurd schedule, it's not like they've played Colorado 9 times and they've played the A's 6 times. Of course, you're not playing American League teams more than one series. Maybe Seattle, they play for 2 series. But it's not like they've had this complete cakewalk of a schedule. They haven't. I mean, they have not had a complete cakewalk of a schedule. Will there be tougher stretches in there for the Padres? Yeah, there will, because you're going to get into a period in June where you haven't even played the Dodgers, which means, you know, 13 of your final, let's say 90 or 100 games are going to be against LA. And you still have to play a Giants team that's gotten off to a really good start 13 times. And Arizona is expected to compete in the division and for a playoff spot. But I would kind of put that question on, you know, on its head and say, well, those teams haven't played the Padres. So for all that we make of, well, the Padres haven't played the Dodgers, well, the Dodgers haven't played the Padres. And for all that we make of, well, the Padres haven't played the Giants, well, I would say the same thing. The Giants haven't played the Padres. So it goes both ways. And again, this isn't college football where we can argue until we're blue in the face and say their schedule wasn't good enough for the playoff. They played 2 FCS teams, and they played in a watered down ACC. That's not what Major League Baseball is. That's not really what professional sports are. You are what your record says you are. It's kind of as simple as that. And if it is as simple as that, and that's how I would simplify it, then the Padres are among the better teams in baseball. I'm not saying that this is going to hold all season, like 14-4 is going to multiply out, and they're going to definitely and definitively have the best record in baseball all year. That's the last thing I'm saying. But what I am saying is they should get credit for their start, and they have proven to me over a 3-week stretch that they're capable of contending here in 2025. And I don't know if that means for a World Series or for a division or for a playoff spot, but this is a team that's going to compete and be in the conversation throughout the course of 2025. Now, earlier I mentioned Fernando Tatis Jr., who is trying to put maybe a bow on this game because the Padres and Cubs have been in this back and forth affair all day long. Padres right now are leading 3-2 in the 8th inning. They have loaded the bases with 2 outs for Tatis, who's had this incredible series against the Cubs, right? Had a 2-home-run game. It's had an RBI base hit in this game. And this is a big late inning opportunity for Tatis, who arguably has been as good as any hitter in the National League so far this year. So a big spot for Fernando Tatis Jr. And then on the other side, presumably we'll see Robert Suarez. Now, I guess if the Padres were to add on here and open up like a 3-4-5, more than a 3-run lead, but 4 or 5-run lead, maybe you wouldn't turn to Robert Suarez. But as it is right now, we're going to see Robert Suarez potentially in that 9th inning. We'll see if the Padres can hold on to this lead. But yeah, this idea that, they're 14-4, but like, I don't think that's fair. I wouldn't say that's fair to any team. Now, you might be skeptical. Like if the Pittsburgh Pirates were 14-4, you're like waiting for the other shoe to drop. But with the Padres, who have consistently been a winner, I don't think we're really waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Maybe the Padres will be that team. The last couple of years, the one year it was Arizona, and the other year it was the Giants. Where
right.
Remember how long in the season we're like, the Giants are going to be able to, keep this up for the whole year. Just wait. Their slump will come. And then it didn't really come, and they went all the way
like
to the playoffs.
Yeah, that was the team you're talking about. I think 2021.
Yeah, it was like
when
2-3
the Padres
years ago,
faded, and the Giants won like 107 games that year. Nobody expected that. And you're right. As late as the second half of the season, people were like, "The fade is coming. The fade is coming," and then it never came.
And we did the same thing with Arizona.
Yes.
Was it last year or the year before? The year before they went to the World Series.
That's
Everyone's
exactly
like,
right.
they're not going to be able to sustain this, and they did.
Yeah, exactly. And some of it is a roller coaster. I mean, I've watched the Padres get off to good starts in 2021 and 2023. I think that's right. Didn't they get off to? No, 2023. No, they just weren't good. They were under 500 most of the year. They finally got hot in September when it didn't matter. But 2021, I mean, the Padres were one of the better teams in baseball through 2 months of the season, and then it all unraveled. The difference here is they're a more veteran group. They've added to that core. Some of these guys have been through that disappointment, whether it's a Manny Machado, a Fernando Tatis Jr., and others. I just feel like they're better situated. The manager has changed, right? They dealt with the adversity a year ago. This is an unbelievable at bat, by the way, playing out between Tatis and the Cubs reliever in the bottom of the 8th inning with the bases loaded and 2 outs. But yeah, I just feel like they're equipped to deal with it. They've been through it. Despite some of the highs and lows of this decade, there have been a lot of highs like 2020 and 2022 and 2024. And I think this 2025 start is a good omen. I really do. I don't think this is fool's gold. I don't think there's a reason to be skeptical. Now, should you be cautious? Of course, because the seasons are so long. I don't think anyone should be printing World Series tickets tonight. I don't know if those exist. I don't even know how you print tickets or downloading them to their phone. So the Padres have taken a lead on a bases loaded walk to Tatis, or extended their lead now to 4-2. So a little bit of margin, a little bit of insurance for Robert Suarez, maybe more coming in the 8th inning. Padres trying to win a series against the Cubs and finish a homestand 5-1. We'll get to the wrap coming up at 4 p.m. We'll hear from Mike Schilt when this game goes final. You'll hear from Kevin Acee with us live at 5:30. Padres leading the Cubs right now 4-2. We'll give away those Sesame Place tickets. Actually, what? We could give away Sesame Place tickets. Are we going to do Trainwreck Radio? I think we said we were. So we'll do Trainwreck Radio coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. So we'll give away that 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place in the 4 o'clock hour. But again, we're reacting to Padres Cubs, also to the news out of the transfer portal today with San Diego State adding another piece. This wasn't via the portal. This is via the high school route. We have the latest on that on the other side. This is John and Jim. All right, guys, it is John and Jim again for the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. We've been telling you about this great promotion going on Monday nights. It's Monday Night Live, smashing Easter eggs this month, because every Monday in April, you have a chance to win big. They have 10 winners every hour at 7, 8, 9 p.m. Your odds are better than ever. You can earn entries all month long by playing and get 2 times the entries on Wednesdays with at least $500 cash for all winners and a chance to win up to $25,000 cash. It's a promotion you're not going to want to miss. In addition to that, this weekend, celebrate Easter with brunch at Prime Cut. This is beginning at 10:30 a.m. all the way through 3:30 in the afternoon. This Sunday, celebrate Easter with a delicious brunch at Prime Cut featuring lobster tails, hand-carved prime rib, and more. Gather with family and enjoy. You can make your reservation here today. In addition, they have endless dining going on 5 nights a week at Jamul, including at Tony Gwynn's, where they're going over the top right now with crab, shrimp, dynamite salmon, and more. It's the all-new Jamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. We'll hear from Mike Schilt when this Padre game goes final. They're heading to the 9th inning. Padres leading the Cubs 4-2. Kevin Acee will join us at 5:30. New Aztec commit Latrell Davis at 5 p.m. We do want to remind you about the all-new iHeartRadio app. If you download it and put San Diego Sports 760 as your number 1 preset, you can listen to us live all day long. John and Jim right here on San Diego Sports 760. You can put John and Jim in your presets. If you do that, you can listen on demand, any interview, any hour of the show. So make sure to download the all-new iHeartRadio app. I do want to take a moment to recognize what we have recognized a lot over the course of the last handful of years down at Petco Park. And we've said the same thing about like Aztec basketball at Viejas, or what's playing out right now with SDFC at Snapdragon Stadium. But these crowds continue to be some of the biggest stories right now in San Diego. This is a Wednesday day game. Like last time I checked, people work by and large. Like everywhere I go, I see people like, working, right? Like it is San Diego. I see people at the beach and, they're outside. But by and large, people work. And on a Wednesday afternoon in April, while school is in session, right? The kids aren't out of school. There are 41,562 fans at Petco Park. Find me any other example of that in Major League Baseball today, a Wednesday day game with 42,000 fans. I don't think there is an example. Now, I haven't done the deep dive and looked at every box score here today, but it's just further proof of what is playing out right now in San Diego is not anything to be taken for granted. And you look at these games on television, and it's just an incredible thing to watch.
I would say the only team that would maybe come close would be the team they're playing now, the Cubs, just due to the amount of
all the day games.
Afternoon games. Yeah, like 75% of our games are all 1:20 Central starts. So
I think it was the former Cubs manager, maybe in the 70s or 80s, Lee Elia, that went on a rant after a game that the Cubs lost and said, like, don't you people have anything better to do than come to our games? Which is probably the worst thing you could possibly say to a fan base. But you're right. The Cubs fans are almost like they're almost set to you just do it. It's Chicago. It's a part of the culture. It's the middle of the afternoon. You take afternoons off. It's not the same in San Diego or around Major League Baseball. Now, of course, the Padres play Wednesday day games. Most of the games in Major League Baseball are Wednesday day games because of travel. And typically the crowds are depressed because of that, because you're playing at 1 in the afternoon. But in San Diego, you're getting the 35 and the 40,000 person crowds like they get at Wrigley, which I don't know how big it is at this point, or what, 37, 40,
it's something like that. They expanded a couple years ago.
In the neighborhood of high 30s, low 40s. So you're right. They'll get that at Wrigley, but there have been years, and we've all lived through them, where Petco Park wouldn't have big crowds for night games during the week, and certainly wouldn't have big crowds for day games on Wednesdays. And that's been turned on its head here this decade.
Dude, I remember when I moved here and I practically lived 6 days a week up in the press box. You would go to like a Wednesday night game or a Tuesday night game against like Tampa, and there would be barely 10,000 people there. And now, they could play the worst team, and the Rockies could come to town and they'll sell out, no question about it.
100%. So I just thought, like, it should be noted, because there's things that are taken for granted in sports. Like, we take for granted Steph Curry's ridiculous shooting abilities. Like, I'm watching last night, the 3 hit in a 3-point game. You've seen that highlight.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like ridiculous. Everyone's racing after him. He's double clutching and stepping back and leaning in. Like, this isn't normal, but he's kind of made it normal. And there's so many examples in sports that we kind of just take for granted. I mean, LeBron's legacy here, this 20-year run where he's the best player in the NBA for 2 decades. Like, that's not a normal thing. What's not normal is for there to be 40-something thousand people at the ballpark on Wednesday afternoon. Like, that's not how it's always been, and that's not guaranteed to happen into the future. And it should be recognized and it should be celebrated. And again, it's part of the fact that the Padres have earned it. They're 14-4. If they're 4-14 right now, it doesn't look like that necessarily downtown, but they're 14-4, and people recognize it and they're supporting, as they should be.
Well, and to your point, you said too that it's even more impressive. School's still in session. This is one thing if this was like, a Wednesday in July to where, the ballpark is full of kids and families and stuff because they're on vacation. They're selling out weekday games when school's still in session.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So this game has gone final. The Padres are 12-1 at home, and we will have full reaction coming up over the next couple of hours. We'll hear from Mike Schild just after 4 p.m. as the Padres beat the Cubs 4-2, and they do it impressively behind Nick Pivetta with some really good at-bats from Fernando Tatis Jr., including with his insurance run walk with the bases loaded in the 8th inning. Bullpen, down a man or two, turning to Wandy Peralta, preserving that lead in the 8th. Robert Suarez has been a complete revelation, as he was last year. I mean, Robert Suarez has been great, and the Padres are 15-4 heading for Houston to kick off a 6-game road trip. You heard me right. The Padres are 15-4 on their way to Houston. This was in come from behind fashion. They trailed in this game 1-0, scored a couple of runs immediately afterwards on base hits from Manny and Toddy to take a 2-1 lead, held on as the Cubs fought back, and the Padres win it here today, avenging what happened yesterday. Again, I told people heading into this series, just win this series. You're taking on a team that's expected to get to the postseason, potentially win the NL Central. You can't expect to sweep all opponents. That's not the expectation. You can hope and expect to win series against good teams, and that's exactly what the Padres are doing. They are winning series, and now they're doing it against good teams. Whether it was Chicago right now, earlier in the year against Cleveland, I think at the end of the day, Atlanta's going to be a good team. They swept through the Braves earlier this year. Yeah, they didn't get to 12-0 at home last night, which would have been one of the best starts for any team in the history of Major League Baseball, or at least over the last 125 years. But they just took 2 out of 3, and they finished off a 5-1 homestand, and they are 15-4 overall. Like, is this real life? They are 15-4 overall, and sometimes you forget Jackson Merrill, one of the best players in the National League, arguably, is out. Jay Cronenworth, with his big contract and a key contributor, is out. Yu Darvish, one of the best pitchers of his generation, is out. A backup center fielder, Brandon Lockridge, is out. A piece in their bullpen, Brian Hoeing, is out. They just churn along. They just continue to go through and win. And again, yeah, it's early, of course, and there's a lot of baseball in front of this team. But you've heard me say before that, first of all, I think the Padres are a good team. But I think teams that are good, that get off to good starts, believe they're great teams. Because you start to believe in yourself when things are going well. That happens outside of sports. It happens in life. And it happens inside of sports as well. And when you get off to a good start, you start to fully buy in. I think they're fully bought in Mike Schild. I think the proof was last year and what they were able to accomplish specifically in the second half. But now that they're 15-4 overall, it's not just about being good. I think it is how good. And is this capable of being a great team? And is this a team that's capable of vying all season long in the NL West? Is this a team that's capable of making noise in the postseason? I think those are fair questions, and I get it. I know it's tax day or whatever. It's April 16th. I mean, it's still cold in the Midwest and the East, right? It's still bad weather by and large around most of the country. Like, we haven't even settled into summertime, America's pastime, and the bulk of the season, right? We haven't even reached like mile marker 1 in this race, so to speak, which I like to think sometimes is like Memorial Day, and then there's July 4th, and there's Labor Day, and you look up and you see where the Padres are. But right now, everything coming up beautifully for San Diego. They win a series against the Cubs. As they win here today, 4-2. We'll hear from Mike Schild coming up in just a few moments. We'll catch up with Kevin Acee as well at 5:30. We'll have like a mini wrap-up show for you over the next 2 hours. We'll also catch up with Latrell Davis, who just committed to San Diego State. He will join us coming up at 5 p.m. And it's some of these others that Jim always talks about. Tyler Wade today, Wadey, 2 for 2, 2 singles, couple of walks, scored 2 runs in a Padres 4-2 win. And it takes the team. It takes all 26 to win consistently. And that's what the Padres are doing right now. As again, they win downtown at Petco here today, 4-2. So we'll have full reaction coming up on the other side. We're going to hear from Mike Schild. So do not go anywhere. We will have a John and Jim edition of the wrap-up show for you coming up. Padres over the Cubs, capping off a 5-1 homestand, a 12-1 start at home for the Padres at Petco, 15-4 on their way for Houston, where they'll open a series against the Astros on Friday night, the first of 6 on the road between Houston and the Padres, and then the Tigers and the Padres as well. We'll hear from Mike Schild coming up. Hour 3, John and Jim. That's yours next.
This report is sponsored by Paint Care. Tonight in NBA play-in game news, the Bulls take on the Heat at 4:30. The winner of that game will go on to face the Hawks. In the West, the Kings take on the Mavs. That game will tip off around 7 o'clock. And the winner of that game will go on to face the Grizzlies for the right to take on number 1 seed OKC. The Padres just took down the Cubs 4-2 today down at Petco Park to take the series from the Cubs. And tonight at 6 o'clock on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live tonight at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC at San Diego Sports 760. They know that leftover paint in your garage is clutter. Make more room for your collection of trading cards and comics. Take the leftover paint to a Paint Care drop-off site. Make more room in your garage and help the planet. Learn more at paintcare.org.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of John and Jim, and on cue, Fernando Tatis Jr. plays a big role in another Padres win. We'll hear from Mike Schilt momentarily. This is real life. The San Diego Padres are 15-4. They just capped off a 5-1 homestand, and they are 12-1 overall at home this season. They win today down at Petco 4-2. They do so behind Nick Pivetta. What a pickup. Tyler Wade, kind of just doing what you ask of him. Starting today, going 2 for 2, walking twice, scoring 2 runs. Tatis, an RBI single, a bases loaded walk. Robert Suarez has just been, truly unbelievable this year. Wandy Peralta, scoreless 8th inning with the tying run at second base. He struck out Kyle Tucker in this game. Manny Machado defensively made a fine play in the 9th inning on a bunt attempt, and the Padres trailed early 1-0 and win this game here today against the Cubs 4-2. They split the season series against Chicago 3 games apiece, and now they head for Houston and try to continue the winning ways on the road as they start a 6-game road trip against both the Astros and the Tigers. And I'm kind of done at this point with the naysayers, and I'm not willing to now fast forward to October and say, where are they playing? And, they're the top seed and it's World Series or bust. But I'm over the naysayers at this point. I just am. Based on what they did to finish last year and the way they've started this year, I think that their results speak for themselves. And that doesn't mean they're going to be the best team in the sport and they're going to win their first World Series. It's possible. We have no idea how the season plays out. But to discount anything that they've accomplished is a disservice to what they've accomplished, is what I would say. I don't think this is old man yelling at clouds because I see the chatter out there. Maybe it's not from Padres fans. Maybe it's from, competing fan bases that aren't bought in to what the Padres are doing right now in 2025. And the reason I'm fully in on this team and I'm optimistic, I'm moving from cautiously optimistic to just optimistic, is that they were really good a year ago and now they're even better this year. And there's no reason to be cautious about what they're doing right now under AJ Preller and Mike Schilt and with this roster. And they're doing it in the face of adversity with injuries. Like, that's what they're overcoming right now. Their play on field is like inarguable. Their play on field is the best in baseball right now. And I know that they have to play the Dodgers and the Giants and the Diamondbacks, just like I know the Dodgers have to play the Padres and the Giants and the Diamondbacks, and the Giants have to play the Padres and the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, and so on and so forth. But I'm done with the pessimism on this team, if there is any. And, if you get super granular and you say, well, this player failed to come through last night. Connor Joe, did you see that at bat in the 10th inning? Who cares? They won the series. And not all teams are going to win all games and come through in the clutch every single time. That's impossible in baseball. You have to have real expectations, and they've exceeded all real expectations to this point. There was no 15-4 expectation. There was no 12-1 start to the season at home expectation. It just didn't exist. And this doesn't make a season. It doesn't. But you can't take this away from them either. What's the adage? You can't win the pennant in April, but you sure can lose it. Well, they're speaking to the first half of that they're positioning themselves to be in this race this season. Now, again, it'll play out over the course of 162, not over 19. But every single time we have these conversations, as 5 games becomes 10, as 10 becomes 20, at some point there will be a day and time where you're going to say this is tangible and real, and it isn't a mirage, and it's something you should wrap your arms around. And I say wrap your arms around them right now. Why would you miss out on this? Why be cautious? Why dip your toe in? Dive in. We've all been disappointed with sports before. That's the point. The whole point is that if you're a San Diego sports fan, you've dealt with more disappointment than elation. What do they say in poker? You remember your beats. You don't remember your wins. And there is a lot of truth to those statements. And if you've been a longtime San Diego sports fan, I get it. You're waiting for that one year where it all comes together. And I don't know if this is the year or not, but I'm all for diving all in and going through the highs and the lows with this team. I think they've earned it based on the way that they finished last year and based on the way that they've started this season. We just went through the disappointment last October. You're scared to dive back in? We all lived through that Dodgers series. We can't erase it. It's a part of the story. But sometimes stories need something like that before they're fully finished off, is my point. And I'm along for this story because I think this is going to be a good one in the history of the franchise of the San Diego Padres. How good? To be determined. How special? Stay tuned, right? But why not these Padres in terms of being compelling and in being in this race and in making noise? Because they've done it before. We're not asking a team that went 50-112 last year. If the White Sox right now were 15-4, I wouldn't be selling you on this is the team. I mean, maybe I would. I probably wouldn't, though, because we saw what the White Sox were last year, or if the Pirates or the Marlins were off to a good start, right? But it's different, I think, with the Padres because they've invested and they've built it over a prolonged period of time, haven't they? Like, this is not an overnight success. There have been a lot of nights, and there's been a lot of bad nights. And this A.J. Preller regime started a long time ago. He's one of the most tenured general managers in the sport, and he has fallen a couple of times on this journey and gotten back up. And it's clicked here with the ability to spend on the payroll under initially Peter Seidler, and now with his older brother, John Seidler, and the additional investments they've made, whether it's Nick Pivetta this offseason. He was brilliant tonight, folks, or today. He's been awesome. And his home starts have been absolutely, scintillating is what I would say to start the year. Against Atlanta, 7 innings, no runs. Against Colorado, 7 innings, no runs. Today, 6 innings, 1 run. 20 innings of 1-run baseball at Petco Park. You talk about a pickup. And then the Jackson Merrill extension, just the investment in the now and their future. Mike Schilt got the extension. Coaching staff remains intact. Like, the things are lining up, albeit on April 16th. But the things are lining up. And last year, now, if you were asking me what would I prefer line up, a season early or late, I would tell you late. But they lined up last year late. The stars aligned late until they didn't against the Dodgers, and that's part of sports, right? Only one team can move on. Those are 2 really good teams. I think that's fair to say. LA won the World Series. Can't take it away. It is what it is. And the Padres last year put themselves in a position to win that series. They didn't. And now they're going to have to overcome that hurdle at some point moving forward, presumably. You'd think to get to where you want to go to, you're going to have to get through the Dodgers. And we'll hear from Mike Schilt on this coming up within just a couple of minutes. He's speaking right now live to the media as the Padres beat the Cubs 4-2. But I'm not saying I've seen enough to say that this team is going to be better than all the other Padres teams, but I am saying I've seen enough to be doubting what is possible from this team.
I think we've seen enough. We could be optimistic.
I like that.
I know there's a certain portion of the fan base, and some of them are in our YouTube chat, where they're just it's like you said earlier, just waiting for the other shoe to fall, just because they're taking what has happened in the past. But as of right now, just with the home record, and when they're winning. They're looking good in the wins. It's not like they're going in there and just looking like crap and just pulling out victories where they shouldn't be pulling out victories. They're looking good. So there's definitely reason to be optimistic. And there's a catch-22 with the whole, you want to be hot early or late, because if you start off too slow, you could be out of the race right away in the season, like within the first 2 months, opposed to, if you get off to a hot start, then at least you're in contention around the All-Star break, opposed to, you could be done by the All-Star break.
Yeah. And there's always going to be, and I'm not saying, again, nobody's saying they've won the World Series. I mean, how many times you have to say it? And there's always going to be naysayers, and that's reasonable. I mean, that's how fandom works. But like this idea that, they're warning signs, even though they're 15-4, the offense isn't clicking on all cylinders. Well, maybe there's a reason. Have you noticed that one of the best players in baseball is out? His name's Jackson Merrill. Have you noticed one of the regulars who's been a key producer for them over the years and has one of the clutchest hits in the history of the franchise, and Jay Cronenworth, is out? So, like, you're without multiple regulars. And by the way, they've been without other players this year. They missed a game and a half from Fernando Tatis Jr. within the last week, and it's only been 19 games. So we haven't seen them at their, full, healthiest version much so far this year. But the offense isn't clicking on all cylinders. Okay. I mean, what? Maybe. Who cares? If you have the best pitching staff in baseball, this isn't a style competition. This isn't college football, where not only are you asked to win, you're asked to win with style, because you're trying to increase pole positions and impress committees, or college basketball. I don't care if you beat people 2-1 or 12-0. It's the same result. It's the same thing. And what they're doing right now is impressive. They're winning close games. They're winning with pitching. They, by and large, have come through in the clutch, including here today. They didn't last night, but no team comes through in the clutch in all games. So I don't think there's anything to complain about. I really don't. If anything, not only have they reached expectations, they've clearly exceeded expectations. Why would you even want the offense clicking on all cylinders, to Brent's point on April 16th? If this isn't their best version and they're playing at a 15-4 clip, I can't wait to see their best version, is what I would say. And if they were clicking on all cylinders right now, I would say, are they really going to do this for the next 5 or 6 months? Now, we might say that at some point. We may look up at some point in June or July and say, man, remember that 15-4 team? Where have they been over the last 3 weeks? They're 9-11 in their last 20. I don't know if that's an inevitability or not. It's hard to play really, really well at this level, at this clip, for an extended period of time. Everyone recognizes that. No team in baseball history has played at this clip for an entire season. So let's enjoy what we're seeing. They don't have to be clicking on all cylinders, because if 15-4 isn't clicking on all cylinders, I can't wait to see what it looks like when they are. We'll hear from Mike Schilt on the other side. Kevin Acee at 5:30. Don't go anywhere. John and Jim. All right, San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Bonus Bucks giveaway. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Mike Shildt so thrilled with the way this team is playing. He spoke to the media for over 8 minutes post-game, which is a pretty long post-game press conference for a major league manager. They aired over 8 minutes of it. So we might play a portion of it for you now and then another portion of it for you coming up in 10 or 15 minutes. But Padres over the Cubs 4-2. They bounced back from yesterday, their first home loss. They're 12-1 at home. They're 15-4 overall. And if you want to draw it out over a longer period of time going back to last year, I mean, they're on this incredible like half season stretch. You can't really do that. It's not fully applicable. Like what happened in 2024 is 2024 and now it's 2025. But man, have they played some good baseball in the regular season in the second half of 2024 and now to start 2025. Where does this start? Is this on Nick Pivetta to start, the starting pitcher for the Padres, or do we know where Mike Shildt starts the conversation, or does he ask a question? All right, maybe just on the game in general, the series win against the Chicago Cubs. This was Mike Shildt just a moment ago.
Yeah, well played all phases. Good series, great homestand, really good through the ball exceptionally well again. I just love everything he's doing. I love his stuff. Stuff's really good. Ton of strikes, dominated counts, both sides of the plate. Sweeper good, curveball good. I mean, he's got 3 quality pitches working. He's pitching. I like the way he competes, but also stays within himself and executes. He's done a tremendous job.
Like Tyler Wade for just a moment. When you go to your third center fielder, he hits ninth and he gets on base 4 times, scores 2 runs for you and runs some balls down. What does that say about the depth of this ball club?
It speaks to the depth. It speaks to the mentality of the team. Listen, it's never going to be a straight line. So we'd like it to be a straight line. Everybody's playing, everybody's fresh. 162 games. It's how you handle the deviations, and we've supporting the heck out of them. But then guys like Wadey, who was a big part of our club last year, helped us win games. We know what we're getting. We know he can come up, and on display today, 4 outstanding at bats, 2 runs scored. Makes a nice play to lead off the 9th inning. He's a great energy guy. He's just he's an important part of the club.
On the defensive side, can you maybe break down for us 2 plays in chronological order? First, the tag out in the 6th inning. Great job by Xander to let that ball go deep. It's easy to say that. Sometimes not as easy to do. And then the other one, Manny's play, playing on the shift, having to charge on that bunt, the bare hand. You break those down, how difficult those plays might be.
Yeah, they're both plays that, a couple of things are in play with the plays. First of all, we did a good job of holding and keeping Hap close as far as the pitching responsibility. Diaz throws a laser. And then something that we've addressed, that bogey in the middle end tags. There's a lot of safes and there's a lot of outs. And quality tags, flips it on the out equation. He did it the other, couple series ago. Boom, right there, catches it right there. Same thing today, lets the ball travel. Ball's faster than your hand, believe it or not, and then boom, just puts it right on him. It was A+ tag, A+ throw, A+ control in the running game. That's the, when we talk about win on the margins, that's what we work on. That's what we do. And then Manny's play, he's got such baseball savvy. It's a 2-run game. Suarez isn't an easy at bat. Bush has been swinging the bat, but showed bunt early. So he's back, but he's also sniffing out and, reading what's about to take place if it happened, and it happened, and he made a Manny-esque play, which is a gold standard.
Mike, how pleased are you with the approach today? I mean, you guys have taken your walks when they've come, but pretty big part of some victories lately.
Extremely pleased. We do a lot of things well that reflect being a top offense in our game. But I will say the thing that can be underrated, but not for me, is the walks. And we don't have a walk first approach. We have a, hit on a good pitch approach, hit pitches we can handle approach with the right, based on the situation. So, we talk about the Petco Park hitting, but part of Petco Park hitting is also getting the quality, getting a pitch to handle. And so I'm really pleased with the entire lineup, two guys that stand out the most for me, or who do you think they are?
Diaz and White.
They were great today, but I'm going to go with Toddy and Manny. Fernando Tatis, if you look at him and what he's doing and managing the strike zone, he is accepting the walks that they're going to give him because he's a dangerous human being, as is Manny. And he's taking his walks, which means he's getting more pitches to hit, which means he's doing more damage. Today was very indicative of a couple very, very professional at-bats from Toddy. Looks to go the other way, runner scoring position, because he can run, puts pressure on the defense, boom, knock, RBI. And then later on, bases loaded, doesn't give in, takes a couple borderline pitches, fights off a couple with two strikes that are close, and then spits on a couple and takes his walk and gets his RBI. So very professional. And then the damage is going to come even more so, like it's coming, like it has been. And then Manny's taking tremendous at bats as well. Been very disciplined in the zone. And when we, you're seeing what we're seeing.
You have mentioned like the body language before, and you like to see what a guy is doing out there. What do you think of Pavetas, and what does it say about him when he's on?
Yeah, I alluded to it earlier. One things that we like, listen, we're in competition, so we want to be assertive and aggressive and confident with our body language regardless of circumstances. But we also talk about making sure you're true to who you are. We wanted you to be your personality, and because it's pretty miserable trying to be somebody you're not. And so in Nick's case, Nick's a very competitive, high energy guy. But alluding to the question that Scan asked earlier, he's a very competitive guy, a lot of good energy. He's really aggressive. He loves competition, but also love how he channels it to still execute. And he allows it to work for him. So it's a great trait.
He's earned that 8th inning with what he's done this season. Can you go into the logistics of the decision to kind of let him go with Tucker there, and what he kind of proved in that moment with that at bat?
Yeah, we were down a couple of guys. Wandy's glad you brought him up because I was going to bring him up regardless. But Wandy looks fantastic. He looks like elite, career stuff. I mean, he's throwing the ball good. It's coming out great. A lot of good movement. Changeup's been good. He's been controlling counts. The Crow put a swing on him, got it out of the ballpark, and I loved how he regroups. We're going to take him through Tucker there because just like the lefty on the left. But I just love the fact he comes right back and boom, 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 hat ball up a little bit. He got down the line. But Wandy's a big part of this. And, I've talked about this, and we have it, good teams, good.
All right, that was Mike's show. We had a little bit of glitches there with the audio. We apologize for that, but a good portion of Mike Schultz post-game media scrum there as the Padres beat the Cubs 4-2. So complimentary of the at-bats for Manny and Toddy and the play of someone like Tyler Wade. And then the back of this bullpen, again, down some guys today. Wandy Peralta came through in that huge spot in the 8th inning. There is a lot to react to. We will on the other side. The Padres are 15-4, and Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, with the health updates on the Padres coming up at 5:30. Padres are 12-1 at home. Stay with us. This is John and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. The Padres took down the Cubs today 4-2 at Petco Park to take the series from the Cubbies. They will have off tomorrow. Their next series will begin Friday in Houston. In NBA news tonight, playing games, the Bulls will take on the Heat, and that will tip off around any minute now. The winner of that game will go on to face the Hawks. In the West, the Kings will take on the Mavs tonight. Tip is going to be around 7:00, and the winner of that will go on to take on Memphis. Tonight at 6:00 on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live at 6:00 on your home for SDFC San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends June 14th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Jim is back tomorrow. Padres over the Cubs 4-2. Kevin Acee at 5:30. Newest Aztec commit via the portal, Latrell Davis, who was a terrific player this past year at San Jose State, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. We have full reactions to the Padres series win over the Cubs. Again, they do so today, 4-2. They overcome a slim early deficit, and they win it, and they win the series, and they're 15-4 on their way for Houston. And we just played Mike Schill postgame for you. And among the players that he called out specifically, and there were a number of them, but he talked about both Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. at the plate. And I think what we're seeing right now from Tatis specifically is like the continued evolution of a player. And a prime example of that, and Schill touched on it there in his postgame comments, was what he did in the 8th inning of a 3-2 game. The Padres had a lead. The bases were loaded with 2 outs, and Tatis showed growth and maturity and was able to work a walk when he didn't get the benefit of the strike zone and took a couple of pitches that should have been balls. They were called strikes. He later fouls pitches off, and he just let the sequence come to him. He didn't try to be someone he wasn't in that spot. And ultimately, he works this long walk that gives the Padres insurance. And that's not the thing, Brent, at the end of the year that might have him in the MVP conversation. We're not going to say, wow, he walked in that spot. They're going to talk about his home runs and his RBIs and his defense. But again, the Tatis that we've seen at times, he's always had a flair for the dramatic. He's always had the power. But in those spots, like we just saw maybe the maturity and growth of Fernando Tatis Jr. that hasn't necessarily always been on display, but we're beginning to see now in his 7th year in the major leagues.
Well, that's just what I was going to say. It just shows his maturity now to where, you know, if this would have played out 3 seasons ago, that the pitch that he took the ball on, that inside one that almost hit him, he would have swung at that because he would have got up there and saw bases were jacked, and he would have had, you know, grand slam on his mind the whole time. And he would have been up there trying to hit a 600-foot home run. And, you know, but he took multiple pitches that I think 3 years ago he would have swung at, because he would have just been, you know, so dead set on, I gotta drive in these runs. Not that, well, you know, a walk is just as good because a walk's going to drive in a run, to where, like I said, it just shows his maturity of recognizing the situation, I guess you could say, and just realizing that we don't need all 3 of these in one shot. You know, if I can draw a walk and bring in 1 run, and then we'll see what X can do after me. And, you know, he just kind of let it play out. But yeah, 3 years ago, he would have swung at that last pitch. He never would have got the walk.
I think you're right. I think that's where we've seen the evolution of Fernando Tatis Jr. Now, Manny Machado's already been the young player, and Tatis is no longer the young player. Like, he is in the prime of his career. We're not going to talk about him as being young and still having to learn. Like, this is the time for Tatis to play some of his best baseball. Now, Manny, he almost, again, we talked about this earlier, 40,000 people every night at Petco. You kind of take Manny for granted. Why? He plays every day. His defense is brilliant. He comes through at the end of the season. You look up 30 home runs, near 100 RBIs, right? Just a consistent producer throughout the course of his career. 2 more hits today, including an RBI single. He is approaching 2,000 career hits. He's 77 hits shy of 2,000. He's still not even 33. He has a very realistic shot With health, he should get there. He has a very realistic shot of getting to 3,000 hits. He also has a very realistic shot of getting to 500 career home runs. He's hit 344. And these are things that should not be taken for granted, is my point. If you have followed the Padres for their entire history or for your entire life, there aren't a lot of players like Manny Machado in the history of the franchise. And there certainly aren't a lot of players like Fernando Tatis Jr. either, who's a bit of a unicorn player and who we're just beginning to see maybe what the potential is if he's able to stay on the field. But again, I'm not taking for granted their start at 15-4. If you're a Padre fan, I don't think you're taking for granted Manny Machado, who, when it's all said and done, could absolutely go down as one of the best to ever put on a Padres uniform. And they were both big here today. Both Tatis and Machado were a big reason why the Padres ended up winning this game.
Now, Jim always likes to, talk about the Manny pro or no pro statue. So if he would end up getting 3,000 hits, it's a lock, right?
Statue at Petco?
Yeah, for Manny.
I mean, I've made the argument. Jim has said Manny needs to walk on water huge, and climb the 7 summits of the continents and, cure disease.
3,000 hits and 500 homers.
No, he's not going to do that all here.
No, that's true.
But
maybe he would.
Jim would say, "Hey, you got to win a championship." Make no mistake, I'd love to see that. Like, I want to see Manny be the catalyst for the first ever World Series in the history of the organization. But I tend to believe more of what you're saying, that if Manny Machado, when it's all said and done, and let me see his Padres numbers specifically, like so far in San Diego, for example, he's already the franchise leader in home runs. He's already had in San Diego, for example, let me just look. He's approaching 1,000 career hits here, and he still has another, seasons upon seasons here. I'm with you. I think that if Manny gets to 3,000 hits in his career, if Manny gets to 500 home runs, maybe Manny plays in a World Series, maybe he wins one. I mean, certainly that kind of is the exclamation point if you're winning World Series here and you're Manny Machado. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think Jim was more taken aback by it when we had this conversation over the last year. Like, really? Like, has he done enough? And no, the answer as of right now, probably not. But he's only in the middle of his career with the Padres. Now, he's not in the middle of his career. And you could argue that eventually you're going to say the best days for Manny are behind him. But you're not saying that now, with him off to the good start and playing brilliant defense and coming off a season in which he really hit in the second half. I tend to believe what you're saying, Brent, which is if he gets to where we hope he gets and continues to put together these impressive enough seasons, and I think ultimately there could be a Manny Machado statue at Petco Park. I don't think that's controversial. I don't think that's overly ambitious. I just think I don't know if it's inevitable, but I think it could one day be likely if he continues down this path.
I think it's more likely than it is not likely to happen.
Yeah, just because every year he puts up the numbers. He's on the field, he produces to a good extent, and these numbers add up, and you look up and he's getting closer to these milestones.
Well, and he's popular. It'd be one thing if he's putting up these numbers, but he wasn't selling jerseys and, the fan base didn't love him. People love Manny. So I think that factors into stuff like this, to where you might not necessarily have to have, gaudy numbers, but if you are just, beloved by the fan base for the most part, then that's enough sometimes to get statue or to get, the accolades like this.
Right. In the here and now, we want to see 15-4 turn into 20-5 and 30-8, whatever it is. In the long view, there's a lot of these players that are on this team right now that will be defined as some of the best players to ever put on a Padres uniform, whether that is someone as accomplished as, Yu Darvish and what he's meant to this organization, or Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis. We've only begun to see Jackson Merrill in a Padres uniform over the last year. But we are living through an era of Padres baseball that is one of their better. Now, again, ultimately, it's going to be defined by bringing a World Series to the city of San Diego, and that's a big part of this process. That's a big check mark for someone like Manny Machado. I'm on the record saying you didn't bring Manny here to just draw fans and market this team. I mean, you brought him here to ultimately bring a World Series to the Padres. Like that's the end goal. Nothing else, should be acceptable, so to speak, over his entire tenure. I think Manny Machado, the one thing Manny is missing, he could be enshrined in Cooperstown one day, but if he gets there without winning a World Series, that's the one thing he would be missing. Hasn't won an MVP either. But that's what matters most to Manny at this point in his career, if I was guessing, over 10 years into his major league career, pushing 15, is winning. Like, he's done everything but won a World Series. Can he check that final box? And I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if this is the year or not, but I love the way Manny has started the season. I love the way Fernando Tatis Jr. is playing right now. And I am not going to poo-poo 15-4. And I'm not going to tell people not to be excited about what they're seeing with their two eyes right now with this team. I'm just not going to do that. And I understand that there's going to be mountains ahead and there's going to be challenges and hurdles that this team is going to need to overcome. None of this is easy. I mean, even if you fast forward to the postseason, that's not easy. I don't care what your seed is or who you have to face, whether it's the Dodgers or not. None of this is going to be easy. And winning series in the postseason is not easy. Some of it is coin flip-esque, so to speak. But I'm excited to see how it all plays out moving forward for the Padres. All right. We have another great giveaway today. Latrell Davis, by the way, San Diego State transfer portal edition from San Jose State, will join us at 5. He's out of Leeds, England, and he will join us at 5 p.m. Kevin Acee at 5:30. But call right now if you want a free 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place in San Diego. The number to call is 877-767-4760. Again, call right now, 877-767-4760. The first 2 callers will be contestants for trivia, and the winner is going to win a prize valued at hundreds of dollars. It's a 4-pack of tickets to Sesame Place, San Diego. So call right now, 877-767-4760 for those tickets. Kevin Acee at 5:30, the new Aztec, Latrell Davis at 5 p.m. This is John and Jim. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Latrell Davis, by way of San Jose State, the newest Aztec Transfer Portal edition, will join us at 5 p.m. Then Kevin Acee, our Padres insider. What a start for the Padres. He will join us coming up at 5:30. Padres win again today. They were 15-4, 12-1 at home. They win a series against the Cubs. If you're complaining, you're just complaining. I mean, if you're yelling at clouds.
Haters gonna hate.
If you're a hater, you're hating. Exactly. If you don't like him, you don't like him, right? I mean, if you're trolling, you're trolling. But you gotta be realistic. And if you are realistic, they've exceeded all expectations through April 16th. That's the caveat. Through April 16th, they've exceeded expectations. We'll get to Trainwreck Radio. We'll get to trivia in a moment, but I've been impressed, and how could you not be, is basically the point. A lot of the offseason was spent talking about how the organization was in flux and who's in charge and what is the post-Peter Seidler era going to look like, and they haven't made sizable additions. But we forgot, that includes me, guilty as charged, we forgot that what they had was pretty darn good last year to finish. And yes, the Dodgers series happened, but so did the second half when they went 43-19 and played like as good as any team in baseball in the second half of the year. So they brought a lot of that team back, not the entire team, but even Preller, like moving on from Jerkson Profar and then Profar testing positive, and you add Pivetta, and Pivetta's been utterly brilliant. So the strings they have pulled have been properly pulled, and it's added up to as good of a start as the Padres have had in the history of the franchise. And we'll see how it ends, but I know how it starts, and how it starts is pretty good for San Diego this year. Now 15-4 overall. So much more on this start and today with Kevin Acee coming up at 5:30. And again, Latrell Davis will join us, the newest Aztec, at 5 p.m. But right now, let's get to this.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Neil and we have Justin. Normally, Neil, you would get your choice of John or Jim since you called in first, but since Jim is soft and he's not here today, you guys both get John for your lifelines. You guys got it?
Sounds good. Yep.
All right, so I will offer lifelines for either of you or both of you if requested on today's question. Correct?
Okay. Yep. And Neil, since you called in first, then you don't have your choice, so you're going to get to go first today with the question. Okay. All right, guys. Coming into today, the Padres were second in Major League Baseball in team ERA with a 2.49 earned run average. Today's question, coming into today, name any of the other teams in the top 10 for team ERA in Major League Baseball.
Okay, so who's up first here, Brent?
Neil.
All right, Neil, you are on the clock. Top 10 team in ERA this year.
How about the Dodgers?
Are the Dodgers in the top 10, Brent? All right. Good start for Neil. Now we transition to Justin. What's your first guess? Top 10 in the majors in ERA.
Let's go with the Yankees.
The New York Yankees. Are they in the top 10, Brent, to start the year? They are not. Okay. So back to Neil, who's got the 1-0 lead, trying to extend the lead out here. Neil, what's your second guess?
Give me the lifeline.
All right, I'll give you a lifeline, and I will keep things in the NL West with the also hot San Francisco Giants. Do you take that lifeline?
That's what I was going to guess anyway. I'll take it.
All right, Giants, who have played really well, are on the list, which means right now, Justin, you need a correct answer, or Neil's going to be the winner, right? Because Neil's got a 2-0 lead.
Not yet.
He needs a correct answer here, right? If he gets this wrong, he's lost.
Yes.
All right. Justin, what do you got?
Chicago Cubs.
The Cubs to stay in it. Are they in the top 10? No, they're not. It's over. Well, just like that. It is over. Neil is the winner, as Justin was 0 for 2, and Neil's going to be going 2 against Sesame Place here in San Diego. Let's hear this list about 3 weeks into the regular season. Top 10 teams in team ERA.
All right, real quick. The Cubs weren't in it. Their ERA is 4.12. The other guess was the Yankees. They're at 4.29, so they weren't on the list.
Okay.
The Mets are number one. They got 2.34. Then the Pods. Then get this, the Reds are third. Then Kansas City. Then Detroit. Then the Giants. The Guardians. Tampa Bay. Toronto. The Rangers. And then the Doyers.
That is your list. All right. So Dodgers coming in number 10. All right. Congratulations, Neil. You are going to Sesame Place. And now through this weekend, you can experience a hopping good time at Elmo's Extravaganza with exciting rides, move and groove to the Sesame Street Party Parade, plus meet the Easter Bunny and your favorite furry friends dressed in their Easter best. Now through April 20th, open daily. You can visit SesamePlaceSanDiego.com for more. That's SesamePlace.com. SesamePlaceSanDiego.com. SesamePlaceSanDiego.com for more details. All right, if you're just joining us again, the Padres victorious again. They are 15-4. That is a major league best 15-4. They're the first team in the majors to get to 15 wins here in 2025. They'll have Thursday off. They'll play in Houston to open a 6-game road trip on Friday night. They're going to Houston and Detroit. I think it'll be a challenging road trip. Obviously, we know what Houston's capable of. They haven't gotten off to the world's best start. And then Detroit's been really good. So that's where the Padres are heading over the next week. Houston and Detroit. They've done most of their damage at home. I don't think that's cause for concern at all. Because if they're just going to be one of the best home teams in baseball, we're just going to take it. Because 12-1, you've built up some equity. And that doesn't guarantee they're going to win 50 games at home, but it gives you at least a reasonable path to win 50 plus games at home because you've done some of the work already at 12-1. And now that means if you're playing 500 on the road, if you're playing a few games over 500 on the road, you just start doing the math in your head and you're like, well, 51, 52 at home and 41, 42, 43 on the road. And all of a sudden you're looking at 94, 95, 96 wins overall. So that's what they're doing just based on their start. And again, if they're going to be one of the best teams in baseball at home this year, we're all going to sign up for that. And I think it's encouraging, and we don't know if they're going to be on the road. Way too small of a sample size, home and road, but specifically on the road. They've played 2 series on the road this year, one of them in frigid Chicago, the other in bizarre Sacramento, because it's bizarre. Why are the A's in Sacramento? So we'll see if the Padres can continue to play at this clip or win some series on the road. Shoot, you tread water on the road. You go 3-3 like you did last time you were on the road, you'd be coming home at 18-7. It's not bad, right? Last time I checked, if they came home 18-7, 25 games into the year, they'd be pretty well positioned. If they play better than that, if they get 4 of the next 6, and they win a couple of series, now you're looking at something like 19-6. I mean, at one point you're going to look up and be like, wow, is it like that's unbelievable that they've gotten off to the start. So 15-4 right now, heading for Houston. They'll open that series again coming up on Friday night. We will switch gears momentarily. I'm excited to catch up with Latrell Davis. He is the newest Aztec. He really hurt San Diego State last year while with the Spartans of San Jose State. He had a 23-point game. He had a 21-point game. He had 10 threes against the Aztecs, and now he's joining forces with San Diego State. After 2 years at San Jose State, he's the newest transfer portal commit to Brian Dutcher and the Aztecs, and he will join us on the other side of a break. And then Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, with the latest on Jackson Merrill and Yu Darvish on this Padres unbelievable 15-4 start as they make their way for Houston later on today. Kevin will join us coming up at 5:30. We're here until 6 p.m. Great guests lined up at the 5 o'clock hour, including Latrell Davis, the newest Aztec. He will join us next right here on John and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Paint Care. The Padres took down the Cubs today 4-2 down at Petco Park to take the series from the Cubs. They have off tomorrow. Their next series will begin on Friday in Houston. In NBA play-in game action right now, the Bulls and the Heat are underway, and with about 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, it is the Heat on top of the Bulls 19-10. The winner of that game will go on to face Atlanta. In the West tonight, the Kings will take on Dallas, and the winner of that game will go on to face Memphis. Make sure to tune in tonight at 6 o'clock on San Diego Sports 760 for SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC San Diego Sports 760. They know that leftover paint in your garage is clutter. Make more room for your collections of trading cards and comics. Take the leftover paint to a Paint Care drop-off site. Make more room in your garage and help the planet. Learn more at paintcare.org.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is the final hour of John and Jim. We'll get back to the Padres with our Padres insider, Kevin Acey, at 5:30. But it's our pleasure right now to welcome one of the newest Aztecs via the portal from San Jose State the last 2 years, Latrell Davis, transferring to San Diego State and with us right now in the home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. First of all, Latrell, congratulations on the commitment and thanks for joining us today here in San Diego.
Thank you. Thank you.
So before we get to how you ended up at San Diego State, how did you end up in college basketball in general, being born in England and getting to Division I basketball at San Jose State? Take us through that.
I mean, I've always been playing basketball since I was young. So I would say hard work, I guess. I came over to America when I was 16 and I played in high school for my last 2 years of high school. And then I went back to England and played for my country in a tournament in Portugal. And that's when a Division I coach for San Jose State seen me. And then they gave me the opportunity to play for them. So that's how I got into college basketball.
When you were growing up in England, was basketball your first love or your primary sport when you were young? Or when did basketball come into your life?
I started playing basketball when I was three.
Wow.
So yeah, it was my first love. It was my first love, I'd say, because my mom and my dad both played basketball. So I was always around basketball, born around basketball. When my dad was playing, I was always trying to crawl on the court before I could even walk, trying to just get basketball. So I'd say it was my first love. But obviously being from England, where soccer is a big thing, I grew up playing that with my friends and stuff too. So, but basketball was always the one I wanted to play the most.
Did your parents play in England, or did they play in the U.S., or how often did they play, or where did they play?
My parents both played in England. They didn't play anything crazy level, but my dad was one of the best players in the area that we was in at the time. So, I mean, I was always around that, and they always helped me out from when I was young trying to play basketball. So it was, that's how I got into it. But they didn't play anywhere else apart from England.
All right, we're with Latrell Davis right now, the newest Aztec commit via the transfer portal. So take us through this process, which is playing out now across college athletics, right? There's NIL and there's the portal. So you enter the portal, and what happens next? And when does San Diego State become a part of this process?
It was kind of straight away. I mean, I had 2 good games against them, so I felt like that helped me. But I mean, after going to the arena in San Diego State, like I looked at the school like, okay, I can see myself playing here, and the way they played, like I really liked the school when I went there. So it was kind of like, this is a school I would like if I was to end up leaving San Jose at some point. This would be the school I would want to go to. So when I entered the poll, they kind of reached out to some people that knew me, reached out to me, and then that's how that kind of came around.
So for our listeners, I want to get back into that, but like for our listeners, again, I think a lot of Aztec fans saw what you did against San Diego State really each of the last couple of years, but this past year, I mean, 23 points in a game, 21 points in a game, I think 10 combined threes. I mean, you shot the ball incredibly well during conference play this past year, but for our listeners that haven't seen you play, how do you describe your game?
I feel like I'm an energy person. Like I come in, bring, like this was this year anyway, because I played off the bench, but I came in and I brought energy, the extra push that the team needed, I'd give. Like I'm a player that gets to the hoop, attacks in transition very well, would knock down shots when he needed to knock down shots. Like a lot of my teammates last year called me late game Latrell. So because I would like turn up in the end of the games or late games and I would come in clutch. So I mean, I feel like I've just got high motor and I'm just always trying to fight, play aggressive, no matter what the circumstances.
Latrell Davis is with us right now, the newest Aztec, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. So what are the conversations like with San Diego State's coaching staff in terms of how you fit and how you hope to be utilized moving forward?
I mean, the conversations were great. I mean, Coach Dutcher, all the rest of the coaching staff, amazing people, genuine people. We had a great time at dinner and stuff, a lot of jokes and just like serious conversations too. So it was a good mix of both. But they said they need a person that can get to the hoop the way I do, and they feel like I do that at an elite level. So a person that can put pressure on the rim, get to the free throw line, and they just want me to play like how I play, and they feel like they can develop my game further to make me better in certain areas that I believe they can help me get better into. So they just want me to obviously do what I did at San Jose State there and just become better at the other areas that I'm not so strong in.
What are those areas? Where do you want to improve in?
Pick and roll, reads, and obviously they're a defensive team, so they said they're going to get my defense right.
No doubt about it. Latrell Davis is with us. Do you feel as if you've played some of your best basketball against the biggest opponents that you've played at San Jose State? Because like you said, I mean, against the Aztecs last year, it wasn't once, but twice. I mean, you had games where it appeared as if from a team perspective, San Jose State was going to win either one of those games or both of those games against the Aztecs last year. But you feel like you play your best against the best teams you play?
Yeah, I feel like I play better against bad teams. Like I feel like it's like an underdog mentality of a sense, and it's like, okay, we have something to prove. Like I have something to prove. So I feel like I play better against stronger teams, and I just have a different type of motor against stronger teams.
You've played at Viejas Arena, as you referenced, and you just said you could see yourself kind of fitting in there. What was that experience like, being in a building like that in front of a sellout crowd with all the success that San Diego State has had? What's that like as a player?
I mean, it's good. I mean, they have an amazing fan base, amazing crowd. Like you go there, you walk in out the locker room, and it's right next to where the student section is, and you're getting booed, all for it. So like, it's a tough environment to play in because all it takes is a couple of shots to fall, and the whole crowd's really into the game, and it's loud, and you can't hear your own teammates or what they're calling, and it's a tough arena to play in. I mean, my freshman year, like I didn't know what to expect, so we came to San Diego State, and they're turning off the lights, doing dances in the intro. I'm like, okay, like the crowd's going crazy, flashes all out. I'm like, okay, this is new. Like I've not experienced things like this before. So like it kind of ended up being my favorite arena to play in the sense of like on an away court, like, okay, I really like this. Like this is an amazing place, amazing fan base. And then my sophomore year, I was saying, okay, look, this is my favorite place again. Let me make a statement because it's a good team. San Diego State has had loads of success. So, I just wanted to do what I can do and do whatever I could do to help the team win. So I knew I would have to have one of those good games, and I tried. And they ended up further away, but it was a good game.
No doubt. I mean, both of those games up in Northern California and here in Southern California were two of the better tests that the Aztecs got over the course of the season. We're with Latrell Davis, transfer guard from the Spartans to the Aztecs. It's kind of unique in today's basketball because you go from opponents to teammates with guys like a Miles Bird or a BJ Davis, or on the interior like a Magoon Guath, and there are others. What's it like going up against an SDSU team? I think I saw some quotes you had to the beat writer in the UT, Mark Ziegler. What you learned a little bit about the Aztecs was, well, they're not going to quit in the games. They can come back on you like they did against you guys last year.
Yeah. They're always a team that fights, plays hard every day, every game. Like, even if they're not having a great game, they're still going to fight and give it all they can for the whole 40 minutes because they know a game's never over. Like, a game can change at any minute. And you've seen that when they played us. So, yeah, playing against them is tough. Like, they're good defensively. They're a good team on the defensive end, especially. Like, they're all on the same page. They're strong, physical. So, playing against them, you just have to match that physicality. I felt like when I played against them, I tried matching their physicality, hitting first, and being kind of physical with them too, because, you got to be physical with a team that's going to be physical, otherwise they're just going to bully you. So I was trying to match physicality, and then, but playing against them is always tough. But I feel like I like playing against them because, that's my type of basketball. Like, I like playing aggressive, physical, and fast as kind of they was playing. So, I felt like that was good. Good for me.
No doubt. We're with Latrell Davis. What do you make of this roster, Latrell? And again, you're a newcomer, so you're probably just kind of maybe learning the fullness of what's transpiring here. But it looks as if what Brian Dutcher and his staff have acquired, so to speak, is one of the deepest rosters in the history of the program. What do you make of the talent and the depth that's coming into next season?
They knew what they wanted and they went after it. So that's why I would say, like, they got the right players, different players that can do different stuff in a game. No matter who you sub out, if someone's tired, someone can come in and keep that same energy, or someone can come in and do something else somebody couldn't do, which makes it harder for another team to scout or guard. So I do like this. I do like this roster. It's guys I'm going to have to compete against in practice day in and day out. And, when you have good players that you're playing against, good players that you're practicing against, and everybody's playing well, like, you're going to get better at certain areas and you're going to improve. So I feel like that's the key thing. And you can learn from one another. Like, if someone's good at one thing, you can take that for your game and, ask them questions. Like, at the end of the day, we're still all learning, still trying to develop. So I feel like that's not bad because you can see how someone does something and you can try to implement that into your game. So I feel like it's very good. I feel like it's a very good roster. They did a great job.
How much of this for you is about winning from like a team perspective? I think Tim Miles has done a phenomenal job with San Jose State, and you guys had success and got to the postseason this past year. But what would it mean as a player to reach an NCAA tournament?
It would mean a lot. Like, that's always been a dream since I came into college. Like, I wanted to be in the NCAA tournament. Like, I really only started, like, keeping up with that stuff when I was in high school. And obviously, when I was in high school, I wanted to be there at one point. So, but my first goal was obviously to get to Division I. So I made that goal. And then the next one was the tournament. So I felt like that's going to be big. And that's obviously what we're striving for this year. We want to reach the tournament and go far, like how they did that one year. So, anything's possible. So I feel like we got a deep enough roster to do it, great enough coaches to do it, and a team that's willing to win, is happy for each other's success, and just wants to get better and just do stuff together. It's a good unit to be able to go to the tournament. And yeah, Coach Miles is a great coach, amazing guy. Like, turn San Jose State around in a way. So yeah, but on the winning side of stuff at San Diego State, I felt like we could do very special stuff this year.
Latrell, we appreciate you taking time. And one more before you go. What's next for you? Like, what happens next this spring and summer? When you get to San Diego State, and what's next over the next couple of months for you as you get ready for the upcoming year?
I mean, I'm still trying to figure out logistics wise, like when I can get there, because obviously I got to finish school up in San Jose. So I'm still trying to figure out logistically wise, like when I can get out there, when's the earliest. But I think it's sometime in July. And yeah, I just got to figure out from there, really.
Well, best of luck. We're excited. As you know, Aztec fans are passionate. They are over the moon and thrilled about your decision. They've seen it firsthand what you're capable of doing, as we saw the last couple of years with you in a Spartans uniform. But congratulations on your decision. And we'll catch up with you on the Mesa here in San Diego soon. But thanks for doing it. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great stuff. Latrell Davis, transfer guard from San Jose State to San Diego State by way of England. On the other side, back to the Padres, who are 15-4, looking ahead to the 6-game road trip. And Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, the latest on the injuries for the Padres. He'll join us at 5:30 here on John and Jim. right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Jim, back tomorrow? Question mark. Stay tuned. Tune in tomorrow at 2 p.m. Jim will be back tomorrow. We'll be talking about this 15-4 start that becomes more improbable by the day, although sets in more as each day passes as well. Padres over the Cubs today down at Petco in front of 42,000 or nearly 42,000.
Do you almost find yourself just repeating their record just so it can kind of sink in your brain to like, yeah, this is real.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's actually happened.
A little bit. It's like, remember, it wasn't that long ago, although it was a pandemic ago, when the Aztecs started 26-0 in men's basketball. That was so gaudy. And of course, in baseball, nobody's able to do that. But I don't know if you can equate 15-4 to something like that. But 15-4 is kind of unbaseball-like, right? You don't. When you think about good teams in baseball, teams that win World Series, you think about winning 100 games. You don't think about winning 130 or even 120. That's never been accomplished. I think the most wins in the history of the sport is 116. That was a Mariners team that didn't win the World Series, didn't even make it when they lost the Yankees in the ALCS. So you don't think about, it's not really about compiling tons and tons and tons of regular season wins. You're not trying to replicate the 72 Dolphins in baseball, right? So you try to, 100 wins is rarefied air. How rare? It's never been accomplished here. They've never won 100 games here. They've won 98. And beyond that, they've won 93 last year. So there's not a ton of examples of Padres teams that win at that ridiculous winning percentage, right? That we've seen across baseball. And you'll see year in and year out. Teams win 100 games. That hasn't been the Padres. In today's baseball, you don't have to. Ever since the implementation of the wild card, I look back over the last decade and a half, you have wild card winners like the San Francisco Giants winning World Series. You have teams getting to World Series as like 6 seeds, like the Phillies a few years ago, or Brent referenced the Arizona Diamondbacks 2 years ago that have gotten to the World Series. So you don't have to win 105 games to get to a World Series, but you got to get in. And when the Padres do get in this decade, they've won series in the postseason. They've won wild card series. They've got a divisional series win over the Dodgers in 2022. They've played in an NLCS, and some of that is a crapshoot. You go back to the 20-year-old book at this point, maybe more in Moneyball, and then the movie, where like the job of the front office and the ownership is like, just get you there. And then once you're there, there is a little bit of just fortune and luck and the bounce of a ball, so to speak, that matters in the postseason, So you just want to keep giving yourself an opportunity to get to the postseason, because once you're in, maybe you can do something you haven't done previously. But they got to get there, obviously, and they're nowhere near there. Like MLB tweeted out earlier today, first team in baseball to 15 wins. Well, there's no banners for that, right? There's no pennants for that.
Are you kind of surprised they acknowledged it, considering that if one team, which won't be named, does it, they would put it in all caps and repost it 16 times? If we do something, it's just like, oh yeah, they won like 15 games.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But no, I mean, listen, I think that there's a lot of people nationally that are seeing what the Padres are doing right now, and everyone's aware of what the Dodgers have done. So that goes without saying, almost like that. That's it. I know at the end of the race, the Dodgers will be there. Where is their postseason? Will they win the division? We can't say that for certainty. We don't know what's going to happen with the division. Hopefully the Padres will contend for the lion's share of the season and maybe do something that was improbable heading into the year, and that's win the division. You can't say right now, based on their start, they're going to win this division. They may not finish within 10 games of winning this division. I'm talking about the Padres, but we're not sure right now. But I do think it's gone from a great local story to a great national story in the sport. I think the Padres are very marketable. I don't know if they're likable. They have a polarizing player nationally in Manny Machado. He's been one of the most recognizable and polarizing players in this era of baseball. They have a player that's been suspended for PEDs that's one of the most popular players in the sport, or certainly was at one point, in Fernando Tatis Jr. They've spent out of a quote-unquote smaller market, which has caught the ire of other, mid-sized or small-sized markets. But what they're doing is resonating, and AJ Preller resonates as a GM. That's hard to do in a sport like baseball. There's a lot of our listeners right now, I'm included in this, there's a lot of people that don't know Major League Baseball GMs, right? Like, who's the GM of the New York Mets? think it's the old Brewers GM. Actually,
It is,
David
but
Stearns.
I can't remember. Yes,
I think it's David Stearns. But like, who's the general manager of the Colorado Rockies? Does that person exist? I don't even know who that is. Who's even Buster Posey now is in San Francisco overseeing it. It was whoever it was before. You know what I mean? Like these aren't like household names, general managers. This isn't Rob Pelinka, who gets like national discussion in the NBA. But AJ Preller's cut through. How? He's signed players like Manny Machado. He's traded for players like Juan Soto. He's added Cy Young caliber pitchers like Blake Snell. He's never done. He's added Luis Ariz. He does it early in a season. He traded for Dylan Cease the day they were flying for Korea. This is unconventional. This is against the grain. But what he's trying to do, and I think he's been successful to some extent, is to win at a high level. And you're doing it with headwinds because you don't have the number one payroll. You don't have the Mets ownership group. You don't have Guggenheim behind you like the Dodgers. So it's not as easy to do here, but easy be damned. And they're putting themselves in the conversation year in and year out. So let's talk to Kevin Acee, who will join us from Petco on the other side. Updates on Jackson Merrill and Yu Darvish and Jay Cronenworth. And is he running out of words? I mean, he's a writer. Is he running out of words to describe the 15-4 San Diego Padres? We'll ask Kevin Acee, our Padres insider, next.
from the Cubs. They're off tomorrow. Then they start a series this weekend on the road in Houston starting Friday. In NBA play-in tournament news, currently right now, the Heat are all over the Bulls 53-33 with about 6 minutes to go in the first half. The winner of that game will go on to face Atlanta. In the West tonight, the Kings will take on Dallas. The winner of that game will take on Memphis for the right to take on number 1 seed OKC. And remember, tonight at 6 o'clock on San Diego Sports 760, it's SDFC Midweek Live, hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live tonight at 6 o'clock on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends June 14th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
All right, so tell me if you've heard this before. The Padres won. They've done it 15 times in 19 games. It's great to connect with Kevin Acee, our Padres insider here on John and Jim. By the way, Kevin, full disclosure, it's just John. Jim is off today. I hope that's okay.
Thank goodness. I've been waiting for this day.
Exactly. I was just saying, or maybe thinking it, maybe I just said it. I'm running out of things to say because what can you say? Now you write about it and I talk about it. I mean, I know it's only April 16th, but this is getting to the point of it's almost absurd what they're doing here the first 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, thankfully they walked 7 times today, and Tyler Wade. I mean, but you're absolutely right. It feels silly sometimes. You're like, okay, what is the new way I can ask about them finding a new way to win and doing things right and pitching well and the bullpen? And yeah, it's remarkable. Like they have talked about, I think the fans should do what they're trying to do, which is write it, write it. There's going to be tough times at some point because that's why they play 162 games.
How much of a story, we'll get to this team, but I was just thinking about it. You talked about the fans. How much of a story just are the fans? I know the crowds have been good. I mean, 3 million, 3.2. It feels like they're even better. Evidence maybe even more by like a day like today, the day game with the 40+ thousand. Like, is this even impressive to someone like yourself that's been covering this the last few years?
It is absolutely. Like, I mean, it's hard to even say enough about how the city has responded. And certainly this was a good time for the Cubs to come into town too. Yeah. Now, look, they were Padres crowds. This isn't old time, Petco Park, where, you're playing the Cubs, the Cardinals, whatever. And it's like so many of their fans and the Padres aren't doing very well. And they end up getting drowned out. No, that's not this. I'm just saying like that did have a little something to do with this. I don't know that today they would have had whatever it was, 43,000, if this were the Guardians. But again, the Guardians with Jackson Merrill bobblehead night. Look, I think the Padres have done, they are in some ways, and other teams will tell you this, they are the model franchise they stunk for a long time and they had to get their game together off the field, right? Mm-hmm. They had to put up the great scoreboard and they had to do, up their promotions game, right? From just beach towels. And they had to time their promotions right. And so they have really done a good job because then now you marry that with a good team and this is what happens.
It's well said. Kevin Acee is with us, our Padres insider. I'm watching this game as we're on the air, and the moment that kind of stuck out to me is the Fernando Tatis Jr. plate appearance in the 8th, when the bases are loaded and he takes some pitches that look like they're balls, but they're called strikes, but he kind of just stays in it and he maybe fouls off some pitches and he ultimately earns a walk. Do you feel as if, again, that's not the gaudy part of his game. Nobody's going to say 20 games in, man, remember that walk. That's not why he might one day win an MVP. But do you feel like we're watching like the evolution right now of Fernando Tatis Jr. because he can beat you now in more ways than he used to beat you?
Yes, and do it more like consistently, right?
Right.
I'm absolutely writing about that for tomorrow. That that was an incredible at bat, even if it hadn't been two pitches that he thought were balls that were strikes, and even if he's not laying off the kind of pitches that he would normally swing. And if it weren't, to drive in or whatever you say when a walk brings in a run, it doesn't really drive it in. If it weren't to walk in a run, but it was just put it all together. And yes, and it has been a part of. I mean, the guy has, in particular, I think his chase rate's a little better than normal. But in particular, the types of pitches that he is laying off. You just don't see it. I wrote about it before the season about, he's pretty predictable. And I don't recall too many times. Now, this is like the second longest on-base streak of his career.
Yep.
But I don't recall too many times where he has gone this long without succumbing to his tendency to want to make something happen. So you are spot on. The evolution of Fernando Tatis Jr. is upon us. And what I think is great, because you get told a lot of stuff in my business, right?
Yep.
Like you just do. And so in spring training, I've become more and more careful about what I put out there, right? This is what everyone was saying about Tatis in spring training, that this was who he was going to be. And so for me, it's really cool to watch it happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. In his seventh season and in the prime now of his career, you're watching. I think we're all watching one of baseball's best players, which he has been. But we'll see, if he truly is on that stage for an entire year here in 2025. Then there's Nick Pivetta, which I think the moment they signed him, it was considered a sizable addition. Although you looked at his career numbers, you said, he's a workhorse, but the numbers haven't fully been there. They've been there at times, but they haven't fully been there. I know it's only 4 starts or whatever it is, but the home starts here, Atlanta and Colorado, and today, 20 innings, 1 run for Nick Pivetta. How has he been able to do this? What has been, if there's anything unlocked, what are they unlocking right now in Nick Pivetta?
Well, his first start, I wrote about this mechanical adjustment, different side of the plate that allows him to stay more square to the plate, and then just helps him with his consistency. Because when this guy is pounding the zone, he's really good.
Yeah.
Look, I just tried to talk to him. He's not the most forthcoming guy. You have to talk to other people about it. I tried to talk to him about like that consistency, because we haven't been able to watch him like that, right? We know the numbers. We saw, he has some good, you see highlights or whatever, but like Nick Pivetta, it was like a good signing because he was the best available guy, right?
Right.
But like this guy has never started a season this well. And he's the first one to caution, hey, it's the beginning of the season, all that. But my gosh, when he is in the zone with as much as his fastball moves, it's one of those that plays faster than the 94 to 96 that it is. And what I mean by that is, like, to the hitter, it's looking 97 to 99.
Right.
And then with that curveball, which evidently is better than usual, it's always been kind of his out pitch or his get out of jail pitch. And it's better now. Gosh, it's hard. Listen, again, 4 starts, and one of them was he avenged it. He beat a good team today, the team that scored 3 runs and had him out of the game after 3 innings. I think it was like 5 walks in Chicago. But it's like, wait a minute, this guy's never had better than a 4.04 ERA. Like it's hard to believe just in watching these starts.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Kevin Acey's with us, our Padres insider. I'm sitting here as well on the air, and I'm watching Wandy Peralta in a 1-run game with a runner at second, facing a really good hitter in Kyle Tucker. And I know that they had some relievers down, and they have Robert Suarez up. They stick with Wandy. He gets the job done. It just feels like what Mike Schild has, the decisions he's made, whether it's Niebla and Schild or Schild, or the decisions he's making, he's making the right ones. Right? We've seen this play out before, where you leave a reliever in there, 1 batter too many, and they make you pay the opposition. But maybe it's a credit to Wandy Peralta. He's had a really good start to his season, but I think you got to give a lot of credit to Mike Schild and Ruben Niebla just for the confidence they have and how they're maneuvering this bullpen, which has been basically unhittable. This bullpen's been elite so far this year.
I think you're right, and I think you're right. I'm to mention them both, because like if Wandy was not pitching like he has been this year, right? Then that would have been a 4-out save, or an attempt at a 4-out save for Suarez, because obviously Schilt has shown that propensity before. Last year, before he had all the guys, Tanner Scott, Jason Adam, that's what he did. He did it more than any other closer. And you saw Robert, after the first out, get into a higher gear as if it was going to happen. I didn't see whether Ruben Fritz picked up the phone and all that, but like he got into a higher gear as if he was going to have to come. And then, they let him face Tucker. And of course, lefty on lefty, great. But I still say last year he wouldn't have done it.
Right. I completely agree with that. And then Peralta comes through, and it's just, again, the buttons they're pushing, whatever the cliche is. I mean, it's just all working right now for the Padres. What are the health updates? We saw Merrill on field. Was that earlier today? The days are running together. Was it yesterday or today? He was on field. I know you've reported you're not expecting him to come off the day he's eligible. So what's the latest with Jackson?
Well, he's not going on the trip. So,
okay.
And in some ways that's good news, because that means it's going to be an intense workout here, right? Or hopefully be ready for the next homestand. That's really good that he got on the field. They call it dribbling. It's like this slow motion, really good form, sort of walk running, and then jogging could come tomorrow, or maybe it's the next day, which I believe Saturday is his 22nd birthday, by the way.
Wow.
And so we can no longer say 21-year-old Jackson Merrill when he comes back. So that's cool. Like, I mean, all things considered, you want Jackson Merrill back, but that's cool. He got on the field. And so that was huge, because to that point, right, you just had to sort of be like, okay, like, when's it going to happen? Well, now it's barring setback, which they were very, very, I don't know if concerned. I don't want to make it like alarmist. I think we've talked about this before, but they were being very careful with Jackson. But now he's on the field. So it's like, all right, cool. Like, full speed ahead, like without setback, I would think the start of the next homestand.
Which, again, with the way they're playing, there's no hurry anywhere in April, and with the way they're playing, there's certainly no hurry. Then there's Darvish, who he has thrown off. He's thrown off a mound now. So what would come next? Is it bullpens and then rehab outings?
Well, yeah, bullpens. Like, he's thrown off the mound. It's like a glorified catch, right?
Gotcha.
The catcher's been standing up. It's like, I think you was pulling my leg. He said he threw 95. I was like, okay, he's got such a dry sense of humor. It's really funny. I was like, oh, really? I was like, no, that didn't happen. But like, look, he's done it twice now. Maybe he did it today, and if he did, I missed it. But he did it twice, which means that like he was okay after doing it the first time. And so as long as he keeps progressing, you're just gonna have to have patience in terms of that. But here's what I'm thinking. It kind of lines up. If you go, not to make this answer too long, but it could line up where he gets a start or two in before their first series against the Dodgers.
All right, well, that's not until what? Is that in June?
Right, beginning of June.
Yeah.
So if he could be mid or late May, where it's like the 5-inning kind, you know what I mean, or whatever
that
it
makes
is,
sense.
And then he's ready because he's the Dodger killer, right? So now I'm just speculating there. No one has said that. I'm just kind of looking ahead. After I figured out doing the math and was talking to people about mid to late May, I'm like, oh, hey. Cool. Dodgers coming up in, what is it, 7 times in 11 days?
Yeah.
June 8th to like the 19th or something.
And again, when you have a Nick Pivetta, when you start like this, there is no rush, and Darvish's best value might be his availability late in the season if the Padres are trending, where they were trending last year, which was into the postseason where they made a run to the NLDS. Kevin, appreciate it. You're traveling, obviously, to Houston, right?
Yes, I am.
All right. So we will catch up with you from Houston, Texas. Thanks for doing it. Safe travels, all right?
Talk to you later. Thanks, Sean.
All right, great stuff. Appreciate it. Kevin Acee, our Padres insider. We can react. Plus Brent. Brent's going to do the back page, right? Brent's back page coming up next. John and Jim. All right, hey guys, it is Schaefer for Loan Pronto, and interest rates have plummeted. It is time to call Loan Pronto. If you're looking to get cash out of your home equity, refinance out of a high rate, or do a home improvement project, Loan Pronto can make it happen in a matter of days. Take advantage of this opportunity and get tens or even hundreds of thousands out of your home equity. Pay off all your credit cards, pay off your car loans. The average homeowner cuts their monthly bills by $1,000. Get more info at loanpronto.com. Inflation and higher costs have put a lot of people in a stressful financial situation. But if you own a home, there's a way out. Loan Pronto has multiple options that can help you get the financial freedom you deserve. Most homeowners get their cash in less than 2 weeks, and most don't even need an appraisal. Do the smart thing. Stop paying insane rates on those credit cards. Wipe them all out. Get a lower mortgage rate. Get some money for that home improvement project. It all starts by getting in contact with the experts at Loan Pronto. LoanPronto.com or call now, 619-207-4336. LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Looking forward to this coming up in about 10 minutes, 6 p.m. San Diego Sports 760 has SDFC Midweek Live. You're going to hear from head coach Mikey Varas, as well as interviews with players and coaches. You'll find out the latest club and MLS information hosted by Darren Smith. SDFC Midweek Live. That's every Wednesday at 6 on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Friend of the show, Jim Russell, returns tomorrow. Would he be the number one friend of the show, or would we keep Annie above Jim?
I'd keep Annie above Jim.
I would agree with that. But Jim Russell will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. iHeartRadio app. You can find us on YouTube as well. Search for John and Jim 760. Normally it's Jim's back page. Today it's Brent's. Let's get to it.
All right, we'll start with Chili's. You like Chili's, John?
I think I do. You know me, I'm not a huge like chain restaurant guy, but yeah, you could paint me with the Chili's brush if you want.
Well, Chili's is in the news, John, because they're kind of trolling Mickey D's at the moment.
Okay.
Chili's is ratcheting up its fight against fast food rivals because they're trying to how much fast food costs these days,
Right.
that you can go sit down at Chili's and get it a better meal for the same price pretty much. Well, Chili's is rolling out, they rolled it out yesterday, their new burger, the Big QP, which is quarter pounder.
Yep.
They not only is it similar in name to the McDonald's quarter pounder, but it also has the same toppings: 2 slices of American cheese, pickles, ketchup, and diced onions. Chili said in a press release that its version has 85% more beef than McDonald's, making it even more value packed than the fast food classic.
What about the pricing point that you brought up? Is it similarly priced?
The Big QP is added to Chili's popular 3 for Me menu, which is a $10.99 meal that includes the burger, fries, unlimited. They're saying chips, so this might be in the UK. Unlimited chips and free refills of your soda or whatever your soft drink is.
$10.99 for fries and drinks and a big quarter pounder. That's pretty good.
If you get the similar meal at McDonald's now, it's about the same.
Yeah,
price.
exactly.
So
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So yeah, that's pretty funny. I thought Chili's trolling McDonald's was kind of rich. Airline news. We always talk about flights.
Yeah.
Would you get on a mystery flight, John?
No chance in hell.
No.
What is a mystery? Is the mystery like? Is it a good plane?
No, not like hey, are you gonna make it there?
Yeah,
That's the mystery. No, not that. No, nothing like that. Scandinavian Airlines has started a thing where they are calling Destination Unknown, where you will pay for a ticket, but you don't know where you're going.
Isn't that how Lost started, or Gilligan's Island or something?
No, not really.
What do you mean you don't know? Like, what are the options? Like, is it going to be in Europe or Scandinavia? Could you end up in Antarctica? Or
they said that what you would do is, how normally you go to the airport, you might look up on the board and they'd be like, LAX to Paris or whatever. They won't have a destination. It will just say, just have like an unknown destination. So, you could get on that plane and you could go to Aruba, or you could go to Beirut. We don't know.
How do you pack?
Exactly.
Dude, I'm not down for that.
Pack for all seasons.
I am not down for that. Welcome to Scandinavian Airlines. Welcome to Fresno.
I don't know. I would want some sort of like guarantee to where it's like,
give me like 5 options.
Yeah. Just promise me that you're not gonna, like, I don't want to go to like a third world country or someplace like that that's going to be dangerous. Yeah, or Antarctica or someplace where the weather is just horrible. So big no to the mystery flight.
Not big, huge no. Would you do that? You're not like that. I can't see you doing that.
It depends how much they want for it. I would.
You're saying for $200 you go anywhere in the world, maybe.
Well, $200. Let's say hypothetically, they might send me to Hawaii, to where normally that would cost like $1,000 flight or something, to where just because of randomness, I might get it for 200. So, it's kind of like you got to roll the dice. You can't win if you don't play.
That's right. What else do you have?
And then we have a Star Wars story. Jim is going to be so sad that he's not here for this. You know how me and Jim always talk about how there are different versions of Star Wars, to where there was the original ones, and then George Lucas came in and made tweaks to them when the technology kind of caught up with what he wanted to do. And in some people's minds, it ruined the original versions when they added stuff.
Okay.
Well, forever, it's been almost impossible now, unless you own like the original VHS copies, to see the original versions of the movies. But now a theater in London they got a hold of original copies of the original trilogy, and they're going to be playing them at a film festival in the UK.
And that's going to be some huge hit, obviously.
Yes, for people that love the originals, and you want to see Han shoot first and all the other stuff that you didn't get in the special editions, then maybe you'll get a mystery flight to the UK and then you can go watch the original Star Wars.
That sounds good. All right. That's the back page say. Much better than Jim, as I always say.
It usually
Brent prepares and Jim does.
Yeah, I had my back page done by like 1:30 today already.
Jim typically has them done after the show.
Jim usually doesn't start it until the break going into the segment.
And that's how you end up saying the word across when you mean to say the word across or cross, not cross. Yeah, cross body, not cross body. All right. Great job.
To cross-check people.
Exactly. Annie Halpern mentioned that yesterday. Did you hear that? She called out Jim on the air for.
But that doesn't surprise me because remember when Jim. Remember the Baconator, or he couldn't say Baconator,
and like, Annie
gave him Annie gave him crap about the Baconator for like 6 months.
Right,
so
he called like BOGO YOLO, or
that's why she's our number one friend of the show, right? Because she's got inside jokes with us,
and because she listens. All right, Jim is back tomorrow at 2. So am I. We'll look ahead. Padres in Houston this weekend, looking to continue this 15-4 start to the 2025 season. Looking forward to it tomorrow. Adrian Garcia Marquez, voice of SDFC, also on the show tomorrow. We'll talk some NFL draft a week out as well. So make sure to join us from 2 to 6 tomorrow on San Diego Sports 760. If you missed anything today, you can go to sportssd.com or the iHeartRadio app or iTunes or TuneIn Radio or Spotify. If you're listening to us on podcast, please leave a review. And we are back tomorrow. For Brent and Jim, even though he's not here, I'm John. SDFC Midweek Live with Darren Smith next, right here on San Diego Sports 760.